Now Sweeney, Dwayne Sweeney! Sweeney's over!
Can you please hand it over to your captain, Dwayne Sweeney?
Welcome to Real Tales with Sweens. Today's episode is with the awesome crew from Raglan Roast Coffee. Raglan Roast Coffee was founded in 2005 by a couple of like-minded dudes in the small Waikato town of Raglan, with the vision of creating great coffee that was fast and affordable. From their humble beginnings of a small hole-in-the-wall type store, they have since grown into a cult-like figure, with 12 sites in total spread across New Zealand, serving up arguably the country's best coffee. This podcast is with Tony and Bobo, two of the directors within the company, and we were in the Hamilton base Brown Lightning Bros. As you will hear, we have a couple of special guests drop in, those being JC, who is another director within the company, and former CEO of Volcom, New Zealand and Australia. We were also joined by one of my good mates. He is also one of their regular customers and just so happens to be a former All Black, Ross Filippo. Everyone shares some great insight into what makes Raglan Roast such a successful company and brand. As well as talking coffee and business, the lads open up about some of their life experiences and challenges. From Bobo only being awake for an hour a day for a 6-year period due to sickness, to Tony creating the world's largest indoor skate park. And JC shares his tale of receiving one of the late, great Jerry Collins' All Black Test jerseys. As always, the show notes will be posted on the website, realtaleswithsweens.com, and Instagram at realtaleswithsweens. You can listen on Spotify, Apple, Google, and iHeartRadio, and all the links to the show on your favourite platform will be available on the website. Lastly, I want to thank Tony, Bobo, and the rest of the crew at Raglan Roast for making this podcast possible. Keep the great coffee coming, team. Enjoy the podcast. Cool. I'm just sitting here with Tony and Bobo and at Raglan Roast. So these two are the big part of the puzzle of what goes on here. Is that right, lads?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
Of course. Yeah. So I'm it's become a bit of a local really, and it's a bit of a central hub for, I guess, almost the Waikato now. It's pretty common that the who's who of around town tend to visit here to get a coffee, and and I really enjoy the place. I really enjoy the vibe, and that I can see now that I've got to know you two a little bit more, a lot of you comes through in terms of the business and how it is and how it runs day to day. So if you've been to Raglan Roast on Te Rapa Strait, you would have probably noticed the dog that's generally around. It's the dog that plays soccer. Can you give us a little bit of background on your dog, Bobo?
That's BB, and she's a lovely pound puppy, and she just chases balls all day.
Yeah.
But we keep her around, and she seems to keep the customers entertained.
Yeah, she's very busy.
Yeah.
Very clever, right?
Very clever.
Every customer that comes in feels like they're the owner and trainer.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
She listens.
Yeah, like I said, it's a bit of a central hub. It's a bit of a common, I guess, like meeting point now. It's almost like the club rooms of the Waikato in a way.
Yeah.
There's people from all walks of life that come through the doors, and that's something that we'll get to, no doubt, through this podcast in terms of how you guys have created that environment and that vibe.
Yeah. It's nice that you do get a range of people, and it's not. I think if you make your cafe, if it's all white tiles and sort of chrome everywhere, and then I don't think everyone feels comfortable in that.
Yeah.
And so this is flash, and there are similarly the couches, so flash people feel okay, but then you don't sort of ostracise sort of poor looking folks either.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. So how did Raglan Roast start, lads? I guess I'll throw to you, Tony, because you had a little hole in the wall in Raglan, I understand.
We got sick of lining up for a cup of coffee elsewhere. It seemed like you had to line up, wait for an unreasonable amount of time, be charged a fortune, and then be disappointed because it was horrible. So we figured, well, it can't be that hard. Turned out it was kind of hard. But we got into it that way. So we started making coffee for ourselves, and then a few guys gathered round. They were in the same boat. They had to go across the road and wait for half an hour and go to the bank manager on the way to borrow the money to buy it. And they decided if they came round, and we did it as a koha style coffee thing where you put a few coins in a jar, and it was enough to buy some coffee. We tried guys out of Auckland and guys out of Hamilton and guys out of Wellington. And one thing led to another where we figured, well, let's go all the way with it and roast our own. Bobo's brother, Peter Ten Broek, just happens to be a very clever engineer, fabricator kind of guy. He's all 3D'd up on his computer and draws things, and we came up with a design in the end, and we've been following that path since. So rather than go to Germany and spend a fortune, we went to Te Rapa.
Yeah.
And spent bugger all.
Yeah, which is a bit of a common theme with the business. Like, if for the listeners out there, if you haven't been to Raglan Roast, when you walk in, you get the sense that it is a real do-it-yourself sort of place. There's a lot of I don't know, how do you sort of explain it? Like it.
My grandfather said to me in the 60s, he said, "Don't buy one, make one.
Yeah. And
if that's broken, fix it."
Yeah.
So our whole ethos all the way has been something. People throw stuff away, and you say to them, "Is it broken?" And they go, "No, it's old."
Yeah. Can we have it, please?
And I say, "Can I have it?" It goes.
We're fitting out a new cafe.
It goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that whole thing. Funnily enough, that's now sort of cool.
Yep.
Reusing, repurposing, recycling. But my granddad was doing it in the 40s and 50s by necessity. And somehow that ball got dropped by a lot of people, and now it's topical again.
Yeah. Do you find that it works for you guys because it's who you are, though? Because I do go into other places that I guess are trying to do the same thing, but it seems forced in a way. Where you walk in here, it's very natural.
Yeah, to a certain extent. There was the guy who does, the architect that did that TV program Grand Designs.
Yep.
Forget the name. Chris
Muller?
Chris Muller or something
like that.
Anyway, that Grand Designs program, I read in the Wellington paper in the Dom how he'd wandered around Wellington and he looked at a lot of stuff down that supposedly bohemian Cuba Street end, and he totally zoned on us because he said it comes across as not contrived, that they genuinely have just used bits, whereas a lot of people, it seems, put it together and it looks like they've tried too hard to put that look together.
Yeah.
In our case, no, I don't like spending money on stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I ask my neighbours for stuff, and if I see stuff, I've been known to pick up a bit of roadkill.
Yeah, no, it's I think it definitely comes through that's who you are as a person, and I think when you can get that right, and you can, if you're trying to deliver, I'll use, for a better word, a product.
Yep.
The space is a product because it draws people in. If it's you in terms of you're the product, then it seems to work. Like, that's what I've noticed in life. Like, whether it be sport, whether it be business, whether it be day-to-day life. Like, if what you're delivering is fully what you believe in, it comes and it's successful.
Yeah, well, and doing a super flash, $1 million. There's cafes out there with $1 million fit-outs, and it doesn't necessarily make the coffee taste good.
No, that's why why they charge $5 a flat white.
If you kind of keep
$3.50.
It's a kind of a hard one to explain. It's a bit of a balance.
It's a big word these days, the whole authentic
thing,
and a lot of clothing labels that are new put on authentic stuff. But yeah, it's something you can't manufacture or can't create like that. It's one of those things that happens, and maybe that's the vibe we've got. In our case, literally, it was all based on we didn't have the money and we didn't want to go that way, so we just started with bits, and the bits accumulate, and people see that and say, "Oh, I've got this. Would you like it?" And like all the signs I've got around are all people bringing them in. I'm not going out hunting second-hand shops to buy it or anything. It's just stuff that appears. So yeah, that's the ethos, and it seems to, like you've noticed, it's genuine.
Yeah.
It is authentic.
Yeah.
And it kind of like, if the customers are helping you decorate your place, like much the same in Wellington, you get design students building us pallet furniture and things like that. And so by the time the customers themselves are decorating your cafe, well, they're not exactly gonna, do something for you and then go to Metropolis or something like that, for example.
It gives them a sense of
Yeah.
ownership and effect.
Yeah.
People feel at home there because part of their home is there in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
It's stuff that they've had and handed down, and they've passed it on to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I figure that's coming from.
Yeah. Well, it's, if you belong, I'll put it in like rugby terms. Like it's definitely a way of coaching now. It's a lot of player empowerment, which is effectively you're in a way giving customer empowerment by them being able to contribute to the venue as such. So as in terms of coaching, you want player empowerment, so you want them to have a stake in what's going on, because then you get the buy-in. You get they're connected to what they're doing. They're not getting told, I'd go here. Like, it's like, I want to go there because I feel a part of that. And it comes through pretty strong. Like when I'm here, it's like there's a lot of people that come through, but it's the same faces too, but just lots of them.
Yeah.
It's very loyal customer base.
Yeah, I think part of that is it's part of the whole package as well. It's like our pricing's very reasonable, and the staff are pretty friendly, and we make it pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a lid for every pot, of course.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we're not everyone's cup of tea, so to speak.
So I do want to talk a little bit about you, Tony, because you fascinate me. You fascinate a lot of people, I imagine.
Uh-huh.
But one thing I did want to talk about is the fact that you basically used to own the Cake Tin, or Sky Stadium as it's known now. But can you tell us about what you had down there?
I never owned it. The situation there was, I've always been in that skating, surfing. When windsurfing came along, I was right into that. As soon as I saw guys on snowboards, I was right into that. And I basically spent my earlier years following that game, trying to make a bit of a living at it, making it and selling it. And my wife, who is a naval officer, got a posting to Wellington, and I went, that's the end of the world. Luckily, the Wairarapa has good surf, although up over the hill at Rimatakas is quite the journey. But anyway, I was there one day, and I just happened to drive past the Cake Tin, which in those days was the New Zealand Railways, and they had a whole series of sheds there. And about that time, from memory, it would have been 86, 87, Sir Roger Douglas and his mate Preble decided that they were going to do away with the socialist nanny state where the government ran the post, the railway, the National Airways, they ran everything, literally. Yeah. It was like Russia. And they were all running at a loss. They were all heavily subsidised. They were hopeless businesses as a business model. And they decided to do that dreaded SEO thing, much to everyone's horror, a lot of people's horror, especially the unions. But as that was happening, and I looked, and those sheds were empty, or more or less empty. And I got a hold of the property manager there and asked him about them, and he said, we could do you a peppercorn lease because you're being a good guy and you're going to take the kids off the streets and you're going to get them all skateboarding indoors and off the streets. And I ended up paying hardly anything for a huge shed which was 150 metres long, had a railway line in either side, and we started building some ramps and some bits and pieces, and lo and behold the skate pit happened, which in effect became the largest indoor skate pit, the skate park the world's ever seen, on a scale, unbelievable scale. And fitting it out, there were 25,000 employees at New Zealand Rail in those days, and I think they trimmed it down to about 6,000 overnight.
Whoa.
So there were 19,000 guys sitting there on their couches playing darts, playing ping pong, stealing stuff before they went. And when I went down and told them what I was doing, the train would pull in from Palmy or up the line and drop me off some lights, some wire, some toilets, some whatever I wanted. Ended up poozling a whole train. So literally they shunted a whole train in there, and we ended up turning the caboose into the office and the entry. We got turnstiles from the old school days of where you go through a turnstile and use that as our entrance, and then we did a caboose with the little kitchen, make a sandwich and for the kids, and we had a skate shop in there, and we had a flat deck one, and we nicked some bleachers from somewhere, and a first aid one, and
Far out.
and away we went. I think I told the council that we were going to have maybe 50 kids in there at a time. I had no idea there was going to be 1,000 or 2 turn up at a time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an amazing thing. It was all based on the fact that it was about to be knocked over and they were building this stadium. Inside word from the rail guy and the council guy I talked to says, you know, it'll take them a few years to design and come up with the money and build that, which it did.
Yep.
So yeah, it went for 4 or 5 years before they knocked it over, and that was the reason it finished.
Yep.
But yeah, quite a good fun story.
Yeah.
A lot of kids still in the skate community know about it and have heard about it.
Yeah.
It was a few years ago now.
Yeah, and I understand that like a lot of kids used to come down from Palmy and different places all over the show.
Yep.
And they'd stay for the weekend and
Sleep
just
on
skate.
the ramps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sleep on the ramps, and we used to run some camps there where we'd have kids come in from all over New Zealand, literally live skating 24 hours a day, and run them across to the pools in Thorndon across the track and bathe them in the pool over there, run them back, and yeah, it was all peppercorn stuff. No one was making any money, but Andrew Morrison, who was the hottest skater in New Zealand at the time, used to come down and help us with running the kids in the camps. And yeah, we were pretty famous for a while there in the skate world. Had a lot of the Yankee stars, American stars turn up.
Any big names that you can...
Yeah, Steve Caballero,
yeah.
Ed Templeton, They all turned up. Chris Miller, he was one of the hottest guys I ever saw.
Yeah.
Later ran into him in California a decade and a half later, and he was fully still remembering it as one of the highlights of his skate career. So yeah, and then, you know, the tie into rugby, it became a proper stadium. Huge.
Crazy. What a story.
Yeah.
We can stop the podcast now. That's actually real interesting to hear, because clearly it comes through. You basically piece that place together to create an environment for people to enjoy, and you've done the same thing here, haven't you? Effectively with your...
On a slightly smaller scale.
Yeah. Mind you, a couple of thousand people must come through here a day at times.
Not quite a couple of thousand, but I'd say there has been many hundreds.
Yeah.
Many hundreds. And getting busier by the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still love driving over the hill to Raglan and driving, and you can smell Tiuku before you get there. Oh, it's just, you can smell the coffee roasting, and it's pretty easy to flick the old indicator on and pull over.
Yeah, it definitely creates a bit of a vibe in the neighbourhood.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why we've gone for this. You can either have a big shed somewhere with a 300 kilo roaster and just bang it out, but then it kind of like, if you have we've got smaller roasters, but we have them in multiple locations, so you get that smell, and you have the sacks of coffee in the area, and there is a guy sitting there working it, and it kind of, I don't know, it might make you seem like you know what you're doing a little bit more. Customers are like, they freak out because they don't realise the coffee beans are green, and then you tell them how to, you give them a quick explanation of how it happens, and they're blown away. And it's not just some like kid with, tats and some earrings emptying a vac pack into the top of the grinder. It's like, it's pretty removed from the process.
Yeah. No, it's so cool. It creates I love the fact, I'm a big fan of even when you go to a restaurant, when you can see the chef.
Yeah.
For me, I know certain people don't like that as well, but for me, I do. Because you're if you're willing to show it, how you do it, then to me, I see that as you're confident in what you're delivering, you're putting your name to it. It's like when you walk in here, you see Bobo on the roaster, and you're drinking that coffee, it's a direct now I know who's roasted it, so it's a direct reflection. So if you have the confidence to do that in front of people, this is my point of view, then I'm like, he trusts what he's doing, he believes in what he's doing.
Well, and it's fresh.
Yeah.
And one of those things where the guy who's roasting it, as well as the guy who's making it, gets to interact.
Yep.
And they know what's going on. If you as a customer say, oh, that's interesting, what about that? It's like knowledgeable answers from people that are actually doing the job and understand the job, all aspects of it. So I said, oh, look, you'd have to call the boss for that one.
I think they grow it in Brazil.
Nah, that's cool. And something else that I caught up with Bobo the other day, and we had a bit of a chat. I understand that you teach a few of the youngsters how to drive around here, for the employees and the staff.
Yeah, well, they all end up trying to get their licenses, and their parents don't want to do it, or they try, and they give up. So I seem to get tapped on the shoulder and say, and end up driving from that Raglan into Hamilton here. It's quite a gnarly road, up and down and lots of corners, very busy, kind of dangerous. So yeah, I've been stuck with that. I think I'm on number 5 now. And if you had a microphone in the car, you'd probably find me saying things like, whoa, whoa, slow down, whoa, because seems like they all think that 100 kilometres an hour is where you want to be.
A goal.
A target.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, it's
it looks
crazy.
like a target though, on the side of the road. 100
Well, you see the signs, the road campaigns all say it, and they all say speed kills, slow down, slow down. Yeah, I say to quite often to, you're a shit driver, you're driving a shit car, we're on a shit road, slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
And don't use your brakes.
Yeah. I got taught to drive in an old truck and it had no brakes at all. And it was kind of funny because we're in the country, of course, but you had to use the gears and anticipate, and if you wanted to stop, you literally had to look for an incline to slow yourself down enough to get the handbrake on. So yeah, I've got a thing where I like to use the brakes as a stopping device, not a slowing down device. And old school trucks and crashing the gearboxes with double clutching, and so I tend to drive slow and don't wear out my cars as much as some of the younger folk.
Yeah, well, that's like a dying art too, eh? People being able to drive a manual, because everything's automatic nowadays.
Yeah, well, it's so easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this happens to be 200 kilowatts of power on tap.
Yeah.
And that's kind of dangerous. Some of the first cars I drove were 20 and 30 horsepower, which nominally is about as grunty as my new ride-on mower.
Was that the Style Master?
No, it was my Morris
You
7.
should have seen his first car.
Yeah.
The Style Master.
Yeah.
What year was it?
1949 Chevrolet Stylemaster.
Oh. Might have to Google that.
You know, she's a beauty. She's very collectible. The Yanks left dozens of them here after the war.
Yeah.
And there was a
You
few
managed to
came
get
in.
your hands on one?
Yeah, I saw one in a farm paddock one day and it was sitting there, and I bought it and spent a year trying to get it going.
Yeah.
Very basic engineering in those days, of course. You didn't need a computer
No.
to make them go.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically strip it all down and learn a bit about mechanicking and engineering while I learned all that.
Yeah, so you're like obviously a bit of father figure around here for a lot of the staff, I kind of gather. And to me that, there seems to be a lot of respect amongst everybody that works here.
Yeah, look at that fucking thing.
Oh, that is a good looking car.
It's called a Style Master.
Style Master.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so that's and there definitely seems to be a lot of respect here for you.
Yeah, well now somehow the business has grown with all those multiple locations, and the very nature of the job means you've got younger people, students, and so yeah, we don't have too many 60-year-olds working in the company.
Yep.
Average age is probably something like about 18 or 19 or something. It's kind of cool if you can hook them young, i.e. 13, 14, 15, and then encourage them to study at Massey or Victoria University, where we just happen to have 4 coffee shops right next door. So you're sort of training up your staff and encouraging them to further their education and providing them with hours of and a place to work that suits their education.
Oh,
So,
and a place to live.
and a place to live in a lot of
time.
cases.
Yeah.
I've ended up buying houses for staff, as in renting it to them. I've done some rent to buy for them. Yeah, sort of like guaranteed loyalty if you do a mortgage for your employees.
Yeah.
And all this,
Would you like a 20 or a 30-year mortgage?
Yeah.
But I think parents are overjoyed, and I mean, I'm of course one of the, probably one of the people that he took under his wing. And JC, our business partner, was probably met you in the skate pit, wouldn't it?
No, before then he came down when he was like 15 and started him sweeping the floor, and here we are now, but 30 years later, and he thinks he's my boss. And he sort of is in a way, that he's, I'm a different generation. The whole spreadsheet, computer, business plan, cash flow, budget thing, I don't bother with any of that. I just do it on the fly, and it's always worked for me. And I can tell you what I did last year and what I'm going to do next year, and I can tell you what's happening. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's all in my head. He likes to see it on paper. Yeah. And the bank manager needs to see it on paper these days too. Yeah. Because it's a bigger business than it used to be. Yeah.
But that's a positive thing, is that everyone
has their
all
part.
The directors kind of have their own certain strengths, and if we were all the same, it wouldn't be very interesting now, would it?
No, it'd be a lot of conflict too, I would imagine, if you're all the same. But if you're all helping each other,
it just comes down to recognising each other's strengths and what people are capable of, and then what they've got in their lives. Guys that have got young families are in a different position to me now, where my kids are all long gone. Having a naval officer for a wife, as I mentioned before, means that I'm left alone at home on my own, which suits me fine. And that whole marriage and the kid thing's been a bit like that anyway for me, except I was the one that was left at home. I was the one that, when she was posted overseas, had the phone call saying, "Everything all right, dear? Would you like to come up and have a cup of tea, and we're having a little get together, and we can talk about all the problems you're facing with your spouse away." To which I went, "No, I'm fine. I'll be all right."
Yeah. Like, we put that into like sport context. You see it, like the best teams, they're not all the same player. If you're looking at team sports, everybody has their part to play, and they're empowered to do it, and that's what creates success. So for me, I've through doing this podcast, because obviously all I've done is sport since the age of 17. I've went to school, and then I went straight from school into a professional rugby environment, and through doing this and through talking to people outside of sport and in business, it's all the same crossover skills, and it's a lot of it is just being able to feel like you're a part of something, be able to contribute in your own special way, whether that's big or small. It's different for everybody, and then if you can feel valued for doing that, then you do a good job of it, and it helps everything head in the right direction.
Yeah, well, I learned pretty early that it's a lot easier to get a whole bunch of mates to help you with something than it is to try and take it all on your own. Yeah. And if you can all get together and come up with a result, everyone feels good, feels empowered by it, and you get to have a good beer after it as well.
How good's this beer, eh? Actually, we forgot to mention at the start, we're into the Good George Raglan Roast marriage between coffee and beer, the coffee IPA. I've drunk a fair bit of this since I sampled it with Ben on the last podcast that we had. So how did that come about? Do you want to talk about that?
You were very, very generous with your praise in the last podcast.
Yeah, and that was unsponsored too, by the way, everyone listening.
Yeah. No, we don't give Dwayne anything.
No.
But it was more one of their guys, McLean, they're all top blokes as well. Like they're a fantastic company. And he kind of came in and kind of asked if we were interested, and I was sort of like, yeah. And then met with McLean a lot, and Brian, who's one of the directors and a top man as well. He's a brewmaster and just the god.
Technically a brewmeister.
Meister. Oh, Meister.
Yeah.
It's the Germans. And then so it came to my part in it was probably going, well, you either use the Brown Lightning, which is our espresso blend, that's the big one, or maybe there's a single origin which means one one bean by itself, like one style, one type of bean. Maybe there's something that will work better with the beer.
Yep.
I had my fingers crossed that they'd like the Brown Lightning because it sounds good, and maybe we could have got that on the bottle. Like I was thinking all about branding.
Yeah.
And they were all about. But then once we tasted it, it was quite clear which one was.
Yeah. So did they, with the Brown Lightning, did they do it the same way?
We made like a kind of a, I think, without giving away all their secrets, which I don't actually know.
Yeah.
A lot of coffee kind of beers, like as you quite often see it as a stout.
Yep.
And
very dark, heavy.
Yeah, really dark and really rich and heavy, and the coffee would have been implemented in the brewing process.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't think Brian was that keen for that. So we made some cold brew, which is where you sort of soak sort of very coarse coffee over sort of 20 hours or so. And the Yanks are really into it, and some Kiwi places are making it as well. Just as it's a cold thing, and you drink that, and Californians like it because it cleanses their aura and doesn't have too much acid in it, stuff like that. And we've never particularly gotten into it, but now we've done it. It's like wow, it's actually quite delicious. And if we would do it, then we'd better do it good. And so made some bottles up. And then went to them, and they ended up picking an Ethiopian Sidamo, which is delicious. And then they just stick it. It's not very much. It's really subtle.
Yeah.
Just a little amount per litre.
Yeah.
I was putting in way more when I was testing it myself. And they were like, whoa. 'Cause I was like, you can really taste the coffee now. It's like, no. They just they want you to be able to drink a squealer or two and not be sick of it. And as it happens, I can do that. So.
Yeah, definitely.
But in terms of the magic, all I did was supply the coffee. Like they really, they're really, really onto it. And we got shown around their facilities in Frankton. They shared us some lunch, which was really good. And oh man, they're on fire. Like the chiller is just like racks of it's beer and cider, and they just can't keep up with it. And this has been this coffee IPA has been so successful that they just keep running out and having to keep making more, which is great.
Yeah,
so obviously people like it too.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be a consistent thing that keeps.
Hopefully the espresso martini, which is releasing soon, will be as equally as good.
And that's with the Brown Lightning, I understand.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I very much think so, and I think a squealer of espresso martini is a bit of a dangerous.
Oh yeah. Get a good glow on with that.
I'm gonna need a giant martini glass to fit one in, but it's cool, and they're cool guys to be involved with, and and all the direct they're very, very busy guys. So when you do get a moment of their time, it's usually worth it.
But they're how cool that they're local too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's pretty easy fit. Like,
and it's all Hamilton. Like they've got deep roots in Hamilton hospitality, as do I.
Yeah.
I worked on Hood Street a long time ago, and so it's quite nice that there's this, because Hamilton tends to get bagged quite heavily.
Yeah, it does.
Nationally for some reason, and it's like I just like it when people are stoked about being from the Waikato, and I'm truly a one-eyed Waikato boy. So.
Yeah. Well, that is something though. Like I find it has a stigma from the outside, but not from the inside. Like all my friends and people that I know, generations above me, through family, friends, whatever, they do go off and explore and live in different parts. They always come back here.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. Like everyone always seems to come home. Like and I'm sure that happens right across the country or around the world. Really, you always go home because it's home. Like there's no place really like it. But it seems to be that the people that like I know, I spoke to Adam Thompson on the podcast like a few episodes ago, and he's Christchurch boy and Dunedin. He loves Hamilton, but he hated it before he moved here. Like when he got signed for the Chiefs, he said it. He was like stoked that he was joining the Chiefs, but dreading moving to Hamilton. But now that he's been here, and I love it because it's so central. You can go like it's got everything you need.
East Coast, West Coast, and the dreaded word, Auckland, just down the road.
Yeah. So
just close
and especially
enough.
with the new expressway that's going to go in, the mountain won't be far away. For those people that like the snow and get down to Ruapehu, Taupo, then you're in Auckland Airport in an hour once that new expressway's all humming. So yeah, it's pretty good. And then you got the beautiful Raglan just over the hill. When the marlin are biting on the west coast, you only got half an hour to go over, and then when they're biting on the east coast, you only got an hour. So it's pretty ideal.
Yeah, and there's a lot happening here.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yep.
Yeah, it's thriving.
All the people in business around here are amazing, and they do really well, punch above their weight. Some of the biggest businesses in New Zealand are based out of Hamilton here.
Yeah.
Some of the most successful.
Definitely growth-wise too, Would Hamilton be growing the most?
There's only so many
in terms of
folks
business?
that can squeeze into Auckland.
Yeah.
And there's no reason really to be located up there.
Yeah.
Well, that Sleepyhead story with those guys doing their own town in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's just up the road here. Means that they can have their staff in affordable housing, and the land's cheaper, and all the facilities are here. Even got water.
Yep.
Even got water.
Even got water.
Yeah.
Oh, don't talk to me about water. I'm on tank water. And after growing up in town, you pick up a few bad habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you turn the tap on, go to have a shower after a run in the middle of summer. It's like, oh.
Yeah, that's the kids. Blame it on the kids.
Yeah, it's always the kids' fault.
Yeah, townies coming to stay.
Like you don't leave the tap on while you're brushing your teeth, do you?
Nah, it's washing the boat.
I find the sound of running water relaxes me.
No, cool. We talked a little bit there about the difference in the coffees, so like the Brown Lightning and the Single Origin, and we came here last year with the Waikato team and we did a barista course with Bobo, and it was like we thought we were going to come in and make coffees, but you created this awesome journey for us pretty much. You talked us right through from the coffee and when you buy it and the whole process of being here, and then the roasting, and you showed us the different stages and how long you roast it for, and yeah, it was wicked. It was so cool, and the boys still talk about that now in terms of how interested they were, and that was, to be honest, a big part of why this podcast happened, because I found it so interesting, and then got to know the business a little bit more, and Tony as well, and then got a really good understanding of, you know, sort of the direction this place is going. I was like, man, this like really intrigues me. So do you want to talk about Brown Lightning and what that is? Because yeah, I was pretty amazed once I heard.
Yeah, because we essentially came up with it got to the point where, like Tony said, he was just sick of paying for expensive, shitty coffee, and then we were kind of getting it from certain places, and then at one stage, and I used to work in my sort of through from washing dishes there to making a bit of coffee for Rocket Espresso, on mostly when it was on Hood Street before it turned into Memento.
It was on the corner there,
yeah,
and
those guys are gurus. Like the Glens are really cool, and gave me a start. And so I would almost say like we're almost roasting like they were back then. Like nice and dark, and we had an opportunity to buy a roaster from some guys in Auckland, and I was like, I'd made a lot of coffee, but had never, and you kind of see people roasting, but it's, you know, as much as like watching someone play rugby doesn't mean that you are good at rugby. And so we went and bought it, and then it took us a long time to kind of get it going, because it was this other machine that probably in hindsight was quite a curly choice of machine to buy. And these two brothers, the Altazano brothers, they built this thing based on some designs, and we couldn't make it work, and then we ended up figuring out that sticking a weed killing blowtorch in the front of it, it's kind of got this chamber with all these holes in it, and so the flames are really in and around the coffee, which is quite unique. And so this weed killing blowtorch, and you torched it up, and we burnt a little bit, and some of it wasn't quite done, and then we just kind of grew from there. And in terms of making the blend up, it was because the problem is that some coffee roasters are cool and would probably share, and I remember the guy, us kind of going, he's like, so, you know, can we buy some beans off you as well? And he was like, yeah. And we went, so, you know, like, what's good? And he was like, oh, like, you know, you could see that he's like, I don't want to show you how to do this, because but then it's like, hey bro, we're not cutting anyone's grass.
It was a trial and error, classic burn some beans and undercook some and work it out. And we didn't have any customers to satisfy, so we're only looking at product for us anyway.
Yeah.
So that was easy to get to. And then the whole coffee growing thing, it comes from the other side of the world, mostly Northern Hemisphere. You're looking at South and Central America as being the guru guys that grow the most and have the best. And we started going to Africa to buy some from there, and then we started looking at Indonesia because we were surfing up there. And we soon worked out that it was a bit like apples, i.e. come February, March, you pick the apple and they're delicious.
Yep.
But come Christmas, while you're waiting that extra 2 months for the new apples, they're not the same apples. So you're trying to produce a product that's almost a year old.
Yep.
And you're trying to be consistent, and that came up with the whole blend thing. Pick out all the good parts of all those beans and origins, and then come up with a blend that averages out for the year and is consistent, and just happen to call it Brown Lightning.
Yeah.
It's good, strong coffee, and we do a couple of blends that aren't quite as grunty, but Brown Lightning's the flavour.
Yeah.
And we've branded around that, and a lot of people know it.
Yeah. How many different beans does it have in it? Without
About
giving away the secret?
About seven or eight, which
Yep.
is another thing, because no one shows you what to do.
Yeah.
And so there's the rules, but why? I don't know what the rules are. It's like there's got to be something in there that's gonna touch your palate and that you're probably going to enjoy.
Yeah.
Why not?
Coffee's a pretty easy game. If it's cack, they don't come back.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And there's a lot of bad coffee out there, it seems.
Yeah.
There's a lot of coffee that you just taste it and it's almost toxic.
Yeah. So
it tastes horrible.
That is a funny one.
And a lot of people taste our coffee and go, that's delicious.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let the consumer decide, but yeah, we've got a product that seems like a lot of people like and are really loyal too. People that have been buying it now for 18 years.
Yeah, that's what I find with coffee drinkers though, they're loyal. Like, because I know personally I am, like I drive past multiple sites to come here to get a coffee, but it's because I know what I like and that's what I want. So
and what you're going to get.
Yeah, so it's... Yeah, and it's... Yeah, I don't know. But I'm sure like everyone that drinks coffee, and there's so many people do, they're all the same. Like it's a very loyal customer base if you get it right.
Yeah, and you even get, it's sort of funny, you see customers, and if your barista changes, then they sort of like, look at you really weird. It's like, but where's Dwayne? It's like, Dwayne's gone off to play rugby in Japan now, and they'll be like, but I don't drink Bobo's coffee.
Yeah.
They're like, well, you do now, and then I'll give them a few months, and they're like, Bobo's, he does the best coffee. And like, who's this guy? It's like, that's Tony. He owns the place. But I only drink Bobo's coffee. Yeah, they even get loyalty within a brand. It's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Humans are funny, eh?
They are. They're all different.
They are all different. Cool. So, as a business model, what is successful for you guys? As a business.
It's kind of unusual because we didn't start Raglan Roast or start doing coffee to be a business per se. We just got into it because we wanted coffee for us when we wanted it, rather than have to do that wait.
Yeah.
So, it's all grown from there. The expansion of the brand and going different locations, every location from Nelson and the ones in Wellington and out in Gizzy and here in Hamilton have all got a different story to them, but invariably it's because my daughters said, I'm going to Victoria University or Massey University in Wellington. I don't want to stay in the halls, so what say you buy a place and I'll do the coffee there and I'll have a job and a place to stay at.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah, great idea.
So okay, and you go down there and you have a look around and then one appears and you think, okay, that'll work. So daughter's got a place to stay, she's studying, she's got a job, so I don't have to fund it, and it's a good business.
Yeah.
and once that's up and running, away you go. Only got a couple of daughters in that situation, but then I've got friends that are in the same situation where they're places and good guys and they're looking for opportunities, so set them up and away we go. The property game is probably worth talking about because our business model is pretty unusual that way.
Because you've got, we started with effectively the hole in the wall in Raglan.
Which
and now you've got 12 sites?
Yeah. And in each case I've gone out there and bought the site, committed to the real estate and taken ownership, and away we go. And a lot of businesses are quite content just to rent. Old school business now was, don't worry about real estate, Tony, you just worry about coffee. That's your business. So you just rent, put your money into your product and into your employees and into your systems. Whereas I've gone the opposite way and first and foremost done the property and gone, that's a good site, hold it forever. It'll, in 100 years' time, they'll think I was lucky. How do you find that? and we work with those sites, so you've got this real eclectic mix of sites. As you see here, the Tarapa one, 5,700 square metres of huge and enough room to swing your cat. And then I've got little dinky ones like the hole in the wall that are 32 square metres. And then we've got Willis Street, we've got the Terrace.
Chaffers Dock's pretty
Chaffers
flash.
Dock, next to the flash of stuff in the whole of Wellington. Down in Nelson at Tahuna Nui. We just recently bought up on Karanghapi Road, so we've got a K Road address to work with moving forward. It'll be the first Raglan Roast that's open 24/7. And just see us.
Bobo going to work there?
I just see Raglan Roast, is having lots of locations around New Zealand, and everyone's going to be different. When you go to Subway, when you go to McDonald's, when you go to Starbucks, it's a theme. It's similar size and it's the same look and the same signage and the same systems and the same, whereas every one of ours is totally different. Same brand, same ethos, same whole way of doing things. You can see that, but every site's a different size and a different vibe, so to speak.
Well, that will come through the investment of the customer too, won't it? Because they effectively contribute to the site, like you're saying that some of the design students do some furniture in that in Wellington.
Sure.
And then here's a melting pot of people donating things. So is that quite common through all of those sort of sites and areas?
Same thing. Acquired, puzzled, nicked from down the road.
You're lucky.
Out of the skip.
I remember bumping into you, coming in and grabbing some coffee sort of through the lockdown period. And you're saying that you're pretty lucky you had a good landlord, so through
a good landlord.
Great landlord.
He's a great bloke.
He's a great bloke. But in terms of that's great foresight really from you, right from the word go to go into okay, I'm going to own the sites and then we're going to make the sites work. And then effectively, when really hard times do come, you're not forking out rent. I
didn't know about it, but Ray Kroc, when they did the movie The Founder, everyone came to me and went, "You're Ray Kroc. You're that guy. You're the founder."
It's like us, McDonald's, and the Catholic Church. We got it. We're onto it.
Nailed it.
Own it.
Just kind of cool. It just gives you a bit of tenure, and you can kind of try some things out, and ultimately it works out cheaper. And after a while, you've got this. You've got this building, and occasionally
lease renewals and lease reviews for how much you pay are a lot easier to deal with when you've got a great landlord. That's all I can say.
Because is it
He's
true?
He's firm but fair.
Is it true? I heard someone say something. I don't know if it's true or not, but with leases, once it sort of goes up, it can't go back down or something with the rent. Is that quite a common thing in business?
Ratchet clause, it's a standard thing. That might get rewritten after this latest COVID thing. And ultimately, any lease arrangement, you got two parties, you got your landlord and you got your tenant. Surely it's a symbiotic relationship. The landlord needs a good tenant. And the tenant can only survive if he's got a good landlord.
Yeah.
In this case, Raglan Roast has bypassed that whole system, and we're both.
We're both.
And it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
A lot easier to work with. Nobody's going to move us on unless we decide to move. So, we're in a good position to take the high ball, mate.
Yeah, you're in great control.
And occasionally you get a phone call from a valuer who tells you how well you've done.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes it makes a bit more than coffee.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah.
Pretty confident we've done the right thing, and ultimately, if you've got the right property, and if Raglan Roast ever failed, and for whatever reason, in theory, we've got a spot that someone else would want because it's a proven site and seen how much business we've done.
Yeah.
I.e., when I look up and down Te Rapa Strait and I see McDonald's and Burger King and Subway, and I see Harley Davidson, Yamaha, Honda, I see Ford, Mazda, BMW, I see Mercedes Benz, I see Yamaha across the road there.
Yeah.
I sort of think, well, Raglan Roast, that's a big time company, isn't it?
Even if you're
How little do they know?
the poor guy on the best street, it's like
Best lunches on Fridays though, eh? The Raglan Roast in Te Rapa.
Oh yeah, by far. Quinn buys it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Quinn is. What's the relationship there with Quinn? Is he?
Quinn's a guy from Raglan, and he's how would you describe Crump? He's a bit of a cowboy.
He's got a lot of X factor.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of X factor. He's in the concrete game,
Yeah.
which most guys will understand if they've ever lugged a bag of concrete, poured some concrete, mixed some concrete, that it's a gnarly game.
Yeah.
It's heavy and it goes
It's
really
heavy
hard.
and it goes hard real quick.
Yeah.
But we met him years ago, and he's a good guy. And when we had this site here, and he came and had a look at it, and he needed a place to park his concrete pumps, pump trucks.
Yep.
And because he's a concrete pumper, he knows a few layers and knows all the construction guys in town. And straight away he moved in. We had a dirt backyard, so as you notice now, it's all concrete.
Yep.
Every concrete truck that had a half a cube or a cube left over turned up and tipped it down the back, and we quickly placed it before it went hard. And over a period of a year and a half, I think we're out to nearly 600 cubic metres of concrete.
Yep.
Which
is one of the bigger freebies on the side of the road.
It's a lot of money with the concrete.
Yeah, for free, except for hard work. It's worked out well for us. And just having a bunch of guys. We've got guys from Raglan that do scaffolding, guys from Raglan that do fencing and contracting. We've got the concrete guys from Raglan. So it's almost like Brown Brothers Raglan Roast here in Te Rapa has become this sort of bolt hole for all the working men from Raglan.
It's like a Raglan embassy.
Yeah, Raglan Embassy in town here, and they're all high vis kind of guys,
Yeah.
And they get up early and they work hard, and they're good guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Raglan is one of those towns where there's a lot of towns and there'll be like one or two X, that guy, he's a bit of an X factor. It's like Raglan is almost entirely all X factor people.
Yeah.
And I mean that can be good and bad.
Yeah.
But they're all bloody characters. And there's a lot of capable people out there.
Yeah, there is, and that's something that people talk to me a lot around, like the sports side is around X Factor and people having, he's so talented, he's this, he's that. But it's not all, like you say, it's not always a good thing, because sometimes those people with that X Factor things comes too easy, so it's easier to sort of let it go and you don't push through it, and when shit does get hard, it's like, don't worry, move on. Where the people that are more self-taught, really like having to learn what they want to do, they tend to commit more because they put more time in to get to, maybe the entry level of what the X Factor guys he went well past there like years ago because it just came to him so naturally. So it's there.
Are you talking about Damien McKenzie now?
He's different. Eh? But I think Damien's probably a good example for having both. Like he's got X Factor, like no one can deny that, but he works extremely hard as well. Which you put those two together, you get Damien McKenzie. So you're like the Damien McKenzie at Raglan, Tony. How's that for it?
Well, it's a good analogy. I'll take Damien fucking moniker any day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he's a good friend of Raglan Roast. He's here often, eh?
Yeah, he's there often, and same thing through the lockdown. And he was looking out the back. I was throwing coffee over the barbed wire fence to him.
Yeah.
Him and Elwie. But yeah, there's a lot of those guys have turned up. I haven't talked to them directly about it because we don't make a big deal of it, but you sort of get the impression they feel more comfortable here because people don't gush on them.
Yeah.
People don't run up.
Not a lot of fanboy stuff.
No one's taking selfies with Fozzie and Damien McKenzie when they're here.
Ross Taylor's here a lot too.
Yeah, all the cricket boys, they're all fans, and
Yeah.
I've been known to send the old bag of coffee off to the IPL and the
Blacks.
CPL and
Good
off
for
to
that.
England.
Yeah.
And when the boys moved into Melbourne for the Boxing Day test, they had fresh coffee at the hotel from me. So
Cool.
make sure they're on the juice.
Yeah.
Didn't help with that game, but hey.
Hey, I actually spoke about this the other day with you, Bobo. Like, I think the environment creates that atmosphere, if it makes sense. Like, you know, like I'm no Damien McKenzie or Anton Leonard Brown, but I've been involved in professional rugby for a long time, and people do notice you, and they come up and say g'day and whatnot. But I just sort of find here, but the kind of the people that it attracts, like, it's just such a relaxed environment, and everyone's there for their own reason, and almost in the it's such a nice space that you do have your own space, and there's the old couches and the lazy boys and that, and everyone sort of sits around there. Everyone just goes in there and relaxes, so it's not, you know, there's no doubt people do see Damien and like, oh shit, like I really want to say g'day and get a photo, but it's like, oh, you know, he looks so relaxed and he's with his, you know, with his peers or his mates or his girlfriend or whatever. His dog, yeah.
Well, and I think that's good. You don't,
Yeah.
because they must cop it everywhere. Like they couldn't go out to the pub without being hassled, and it's just like if there's one place outside of their home where no one's going to rock up and ask. And occasionally you talk about rugby or whatever, but I'm sure they.
I was sitting there one day 5-6 months ago, just pre-COVID, with a guy from Auckland. He's in the coffee business, and we were sitting there having the coffee, catching up on stuff. And Damien walked in and started lining up for a cup of coffee, and he went, oh my god, is that Damien McKenzie? And I went, yeah. And he went, wow, you know, like, you'd see him just itching to get his phone out and run up to him, and I was like, whoa, just chill out, just chill. Yeah, leave him alone.
Yeah.
I said, watch this, and I literally like sheepdog style, I whistled him out, and I've been training him up to make coffee.
Yeah.
And the line was quite deep, so
Yeah.
I just whistled out,
Yeah.
and I pointed,
Yeah.
and he went out like a sheepdog, ran across to the coffee machine and made his own coffee.
Yeah.
And the guy I was with was just like, wow, you know, like, you got him trained up that well.
It's like we got him rustling sheep this afternoon out in Lawrenceville.
Nice. How good is that?
Mackenzie country style.
Yeah. Nah, he's a good dude, Damien. He's I think like him and Anton, like they are best mates. They're always together. And I had Anton on here. It's pretty cool to see for their age, like they're 25, I think. They're only 25 and
And they've already played like 50 games for the All Blacks.
yeah, I know. When I did Anton's intro, I like pulled up his stats
His bio.
and I looked at it and I was just like, what? Like 81 games for the Chiefs and 47 test matches. I was like,
Incredible, right?
holy shit, and he's only 25. Like, yeah, but it's you can kind of see why those guys are successful in the way that they are. Like, they come in here and they don't act no different than the next person from down the street. And the environment creates a place for them. Like, I often, like me and Anton sat in here the other day for I don't know how long, like 3-4 hours talking about all sorts. And
When you were with Ross over in the corner.
yeah. No.
Ross is on a high at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, he is on the high. Yeah, Wellington will be kicking that they didn't give him the head coaching job. Yeah.
Their loss.
Yeah, they lost our game. No, he's a great man. Just with you, Bobo, so like you're obviously, like you've sort of spoken about it there, like how you sort of met, like you were sick and you were going in and making your own coffee and then making one for Tony. And can you talk a little bit about that, like how that sort of time of your life? And
I was not a high-flying hospo man, but I was making coffee at Rocker, or it was Memento at that stage. I was working for Craig Paul, and doing a bit of work at night in bars and things like that, and I just started feeling really, really tired and sleepy, and then sort of started kind of turning yellow. And I remember at one stage I just fell over at work one day, and that was it. And then 6 months to a year or so of no one knowing what was really going on, in hospital here and there. And then after a while they figure out that you've got something called chronic fatigue syndrome and other stuff, basically immune system problems.
Yeah.
And that I went from I was 90 kilos and I was rock climbing and training and going to the gym and working sort of 1 to 3 jobs depending on what was happening, to just like being totally fucked, like not able to move. I would get out of bed and I would get into a bed that was in the lounge at Mum's house at that stage, and basically would sleep 20 hours a day and just kind of be awake. And I used to kind of, and then that was years that I was like that. And then
like how long? Like,
I'd say, when was it? I know I was, and it smashes your memory and stuff too. I have cognitive issues these days, but might have been after I was 22.
Yeah.
And then that was probably about 4 or 5 years where it was really bad.
Yeah.
And then, I think we started Raglan Roast when I was about 28.
Yeah.
And so somewhere in between 26 and 28.
Yeah.
I just was able to go into Raglan for about an hour a day. I could move around, and that was as much as I could drive or anything like that. Yeah, and then
Got a guest. Yeah, we've got a guest.
oh, JC.
Jump over there.
Come have a seat.
JC, the other one of the other Raglan Roast guys that's turned
nice.
up. We're on our way to Gizzy, so he's
Hey JC,
how's it going?
Swings.
Oh, the beers.
He'll tell you.
Yeah.
Intro JC
Intro JC
from Wellington.
from Wellington.
New Zealand.
Yeah. So where's your? Well, we'll jump back on that in
go
a second, Bobo. But how did you end up involved here with Raglan Roast?
It's a long story, mate.
Yeah.
It's like being married to the boss, really.
Yeah. Well, he tells me that you swept his floors and now you're his boss. that was it, wasn't
Still sweeping the floors. I was just a grommet in Wellington, keen to surf, and TB had opened up a surfing and windsurfing store in Lyell Bay.
Yep.
We met through there, from him basically jumping over me at Lyell Bay on an onshore day, 20-30 knots, and he'd launch over us in his windsurfer and laugh, and took us in from there. And I was working for a surfboard company called Good Time Surfboards, and he talked me into leaving there and coming and working for him. So I started working there on the South Coast, and then he moved up to Raglan.
You forgot the skate pit.
Oh, sorry, I did the skate pit, the indoor skate park, which is now the Cake Tin, where the
We talked about that
yeah,
earlier.
so that was insane. Only problem was we sort of got on it a couple of years after the skate craze had gone, but it was the cheapest babysitting in town, so mums would come around, drop the kids off for $3,
Yeah.
and leave them there for 2 or 3 hours and go shopping, and then come back and collect them. So yeah, that was amazing what he did in there. And you talk about it, people are still talking about it nowadays, and just be insane to still have that around. But unfortunately, rugby's stronger than skating in New Zealand at this moment in time.
Yeah.
So from there he went to Raglan, and I ended up in Australia and actually became the CEO of Vulcan Australia for Australia and New Zealand. And Tony actually bought into the company and was a shareholder. And then we set up Raglan New Zealand, based out of down in Raglan, and Tony actually made up, we've got some property down there, and he made up a false AA sign and put it up, called it Vulcan Lane. And apparently the AA guy came down one day and was like, bloody hell, no one ever tells me when they put up new laneways. So it's a physical address now. So Vulcan Lane.
And did you just make that, Tony?
Yeah.
Same size, same
size.
font.
Yeah.
And it's on Google Maps.
Yeah. So we did that, and then did Electric Avenue next door when Vulcan bought Electric. So long story short, I did 20 years in Oz, and then USA bought us out. I came back to New Zealand and was sort of like, what are we going to do? Brought my family back, wife and kids, and T-Bear was like, oh, take over the surf shop that we got. So we took over the Gag store, which had been there since 80,
something like that.
89.
Yeah. Last century, mate.
Yeah, last century, and basically started up the Raglan Surf Emporium, and then I was lucky enough to be able to buy in as a shareholder into Raglan Roast. Still can't make a good cup of coffee today, but I know what good coffee tastes like, and we're just working on the back end. That's where my strength is back end and marketing and stuff like that. So, an amazing brand, and what these guys have done up till today, and what we're going to do in the future is just insane. So, it's good to be back home. It's good to be living in Raglan, and it's good to be associated with such a strong brand. So,
You enjoyed the beer too?
Yeah, the beer's unreal. Had it with my mate Nathan on Saturday night, and we've got some off Daniel Kirioppa because he's pumping it down there in Raglan, and it's a good drop.
Yeah.
Is that after watching the Shield game?
Yeah.
That was amazing, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How good's the Ranfurly Shield?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good.
Where were we? It's sidetracked now.
Yeah, now JC's turned up.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
quite
actually,
sideways.
So you were with Volcom, and there must be some cool stories that come with that.
Oh, there's heaps, mate.
Yeah.
How long have you got?
Oh, mate.
We've got to take off to get to Gisborne,
Yeah.
so we need to be beating
Just
traffic.
give me something.
Got some really cool athlete stories, the likes of Bruce Hines and Andy Hines sleeping on our couch in our lounge room floor, with the likes of Dustin Dolan, who is another amazing skater that we got from Katoomba. When he was so small, he was like didn't even fit any of the clothing. And there was one time there where it was Bruce and Andy were just picking on Dustin the whole weekend, and they actually took him out the back of Whale Beach and left him on a bodyboard, and he couldn't swim. And he was just crying out the back, so we had to go out and get him. And that night, we got on the beers. And I got up the next morning to go to work. I look over, and Andy Hines' whole face is coloured in black texture. And then, Andy Hines and Bruce Hines are gnarly guys on the North Shore. They're legends.
Yeah.
I look over, and Dustin's sitting there with a black marker pen in his hand. I just went, bro, I'll come and see you in hospital tonight when I get home. Andy got up, went into the bathroom, went, oh no, I rubbed it off, and from that day on, him and Bruce just fully respected Dustin Dolan from there on in, and
True.
he got away with it. And I had all money on Dustin
Dying.
getting something broken. But that was one of them. But there's been amazing stories. We didn't really know what we were doing when we got the brand. We just everyone said you couldn't do that, and that just drove us even harder. So we ended up with 70 staff, and doing a good turnover. We went through the recession, the financial crisis over there, which was really gnarly. So I've done some stuff that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy from the business side of things, letting people go. But it was amazing times, and 20 years just went like that.
Yeah.
And
So you were with them for 20 years. When did that?
90. I left New Zealand in 91, and we started in late 91, early 92, as in had the license for Australia, and then I got back here 2011 just in time to watch the All Blacks win the World Cup. And saying that, they bloody lost a lot of times while I was over there, and can you imagine how the Aussies just gave it to me. Telecom over there was making a mozza off me from getting texts from Aussie guys just giving it to me. So but at the end, other stories that got to me, Tana Umunga and Jerry Collins, and became good mates with Jerry Collins. He actually gave me his jumper from the 2003 World Cup game against South Africa. And after
Melbourne there.
Yeah, then they got
the
quarterfinals. Then they got knocked out by Australia. Then the following week, he called me up and he's like, "Hey JC, it's JC. What are you up to?" I went, "Oh mate, we're just having a barbecue with our staff." And he goes, "Oh, can I come?" I'm like, "Yeah, sweet as." So we're having a touch footy game because of the World Cup there. Just turns up with this suitcase and a box of Crown Lager. So it comes in and sits down, and it's like, this suitcase must have been his grandmother's or something. It was just so old and decrepit, and he opens it up and he pulls out his jumper and he goes, "Oh, here you go, bro." And I'm like, "Nah, man." He goes, yeah, take it. So that was insane. And then he just sat there and drank a few beers, and he was like, "Hey, can I play?" And I was like, "Yeah." So he ended up playing touch footy with all our staff, and everyone was just blown away. So that was another good thing to get to meet all those All Blacks, and then became good mates with the likes of George Smith and Mark Gerard and guys like that from the Wallabies. And there was
They're good roosters, eh?
Yeah, well, there was that bro, and I don't think they have that now, but back then, there was, all the Poly boys and the Murray boys would hang out after games, and we'd go to Bledisloe Cup games, and if we won, it was insane.
Yeah.
But if they won, but you'd go to the after match function, and one team's on a high and one team's on a low. And got drinking stories about Jerry Collins there, where one time we went to a bar. We're at the bar after match. And he said to the barman, what's 2 times 16? The guy's like 32. He goes, that's how many bourbon and cokes I want. Laughed and turned around, we're talking, turned back around, the guy's made us 32 bourbon and cokes. And Jerry's like, right, everyone have, you're not allowed, as soon as you put a glass down, you got a skull. So, we just, crazy things like that. So, bloody legend, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went too soon.
Yeah.
Guy.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
There you go.
This podcast has stepped up in pace. He hasn't even had a beer yet either. Yeah, and then so when did you come into Raglan Roast?
2011.
Oh yeah, that year.
Yeah.
He was already there.
I was there from
Morally.
Yeah. TV's taken me along for the ride the whole way. So, yeah. It's like my second father, so he's been a legend. Skulls me like my father, so
yeah.
But
the boss.
The boss, the Don.
The Don.
Yeah.
That's a common nickname I keep hearing.
Yeah,
I thought there was someone else when you were texting me Don.
I started calling him the Don.
Who's Don?
Don call me Tony crime family.
Yeah, because of the Corleone crime family from the Godfather book. I started calling him Don, call me Tony.
Yeah.
So it's just shortened to the Don.
The Don.
Run it past the Don, for fuck's sake.
Run it past. And you boys are off to Raglan? Oh, off to Gisborne? So
Yeah, just doing a quick trip to Gizzy, check the provinces, have a look down there. Quick. We're so busy at the
You
moment.
drive slow though. So.
I do drive slow, but it'll
Drive
No breaks,
the speed limit.
it'll be back tomorrow night.
Back tomorrow night. I thought
Yeah.
I'd come back Thursday night. One
We'll see how we go.
Yeah, sweet as.
Review.
No worries, all good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Taking the boards down anyways?
No, haven't got time for that caper. Haven't got time for that caper.
Once you come from Raglan, mate, everything else.
It's like,
Everything else sucks.
it's like beach break.
Right-handed.
What else you got there, Swains?
What else have I got here? We were going to talk a little bit about, we started to talk about Bobo's sort of introduction to you.
Yeah.
And about his, where did we get up to? You were
When you were crook?
Yeah, when you were crook.
Yeah, when I was crook. So it basically grew from just rocking up and just making Tony a coffee and me having coffee, and then I would hang out for longer and longer periods of time as I felt a little bit better, because it was, if you're a social person and you're locked in bed, basically locked inside your body 24/7, it starts to be just, I found it really useful. And Tony was into kite, part of the business was kite surfing as well, and I went down to the beach, and then I could sew, and then we got some sewing machines and started fixing kites, and I'd fix up the sort of the Volcom samples that had buttons that fell off, and we'd sell them, and probably stuff that Volcom didn't know about, but just there was stuff to do, and so I was happy to have a task, and not, I was just doing it for kicks, and then now it's of course turned into providing a future. But it just, there was a hole in the wall, and then it just kept getting busier and busier, and it was called Bobo's. That little hole in the wall was called Bobo's because I stood there so much for a while. But it's, and then just do more and more, and I always figure every day I'm out of bed is a bit of a victory, and it's quite a motivating factor when you can't do something. And I missed out on all those years of my peers sort of messing around and getting good jobs and going out and travelling and doing other things, and so I figure, I'll do that later on, because this might give me the opportunity to stop a little earlier than other people. Got to do something. Idle time's the devil's plaything, Dwayne.
Sleep when you're dead.
Exactly.
So obviously we sort of spoke about, there's the espresso martini that could be happening with Good George. That's another little
sideline. We've got our Raglan Coast Honey. Another little side product. We've got some land, and we put some hives in, and we're having to go at the honey game.
Cool.
JC's been handling the. You get those t-shirts underway?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I just unloaded them all. That's why I was up there late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More and more apparel and branding.
Yeah.
People seem to like repping us.
Yeah, that loyalty aspect that you were talking about is quite big, because once you put and the coat of not that I'm wearing one.
Yeah.
But the coat of arms.
It's everywhere.
It got us on-
every bloody
it got us
car's
on-
got the sticker.
It got us on One Network
It's on the
News.
police
Did it?
uniforms.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, a couple of hats. Yeah, Tony ended up knowing Tony's brother is a journalist who's friends with Paul Hobbs.
Yeah.
And we got like a cease and desist letter from the Ministry of Culture and Heritage
Oh yeah.
saying, like $50,000 and stop using this. Our main logo, or one of our logos, is kind of the New Zealand crest, except the Māori dude's holding a surfboard and the lady's holding a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So clearly, if you have a good look, you
Yeah.
know, we weren't, as Tony said on the news, we're not. It's not like we're out there pulling people over in cars and things like that.
Yeah.
Not the coffee place.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that was, and then the next day, Google cut off our email because we were just getting. They thought we were getting spammed or something was happening, and there was so many people wanting to buy one of those T-shirts. So rather than be like a $50,000 fine from the government, it turned into like
Greatest marketing.
the greatest marketing ever in history. It was really quite the coup.
When was that? What?
I want to say 2008 or 9 or something. It was 10.
Nah, I was already back.
Really?
Yeah.
You
It's
sure?
only 5-6 years ago.
I didn't think we were up to UQ by then. But
Yeah.
anyway, it would have been 10 years ago, more or less.
Yeah.
And McJava, actually, one of our mates, he actually came up with the idea and photoshopped it a bit, and we played with it a bit. But essentially, when you got the Army, Navy, the Air Force, the police, the Customs, Justice Department, and everyone else wearing that logo, it sort of looks very similar. And we sort of looked at it and went, the Flags and Emblems Act, and it clearly says you're not allowed to use it in any way or form.
Yeah.
So as to cause any person to think you're an agent or a representative of the Crown.
Yeah.
And we sort of figured, well, no, we're just having a bit of fun, we'll be wrong.
Yeah.
But we got some press and got some PR.
Yeah.
And it was sort of one of the single biggest things that sort of put us on the map in terms of
Creating an awareness.
we were world famous in Raglan, there's no doubt, but
Yeah.
no one else knew about us.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, everyone around New Zealand and all the Kiwis overseas. Like, it's a classic one, if you're strolling down some street in London, if you're rocking that logo, you're the man. And you know you've got one.
Yep.
Damien's got one.
Yeah.
Albie's got one.
Yeah.
Fozzie's got one.
Does Fozzie have one?
Fozzie's got one.
Nice.
Yeah, all the boys have got one.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're overseas, you can rep New Zealand without being an AB. You can rep without being a black cap. You can rep it with that. So, I always give Ross Taylor and Mitchell Santner a few and say hand it out to those popular Indian guys.
Yeah.
Like, some of those guys have got 1 billion followers.
Yeah. No, they do. Because, in saying that, how many police cars come in here a day?
Oh, hundreds it seems.
It does,
literally.
Yeah.
It's just a flavour.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're all after coffee.
Yep.
To keep them out on the streets and keep them alert and awake. And we've got parking and we do good coffee and it's at a good price.
Yeah.
And we're friendly.
Yep.
And they love it and we love them.
Yep.
What did you say, Bobo? If you're going to join a gang, that's a good gang.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Wendy Petrie with the logo.
Oh, yeah.
At the top.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
The firemen are here all the time too. The fire truck pulls up.
Yeah, the fire
Kids
boys
get
come
a
in.
massive kick off that when they.
Ambo guys pull in. Animal control guys seem to pull in.
Yeah.
Even the All Blacks pull in here.
Yeah,
mate.
yeah. Black caps, all of them.
It's black sticks.
Black sticks. Yeah.
All
Any
those
of the
guys.
silver ferns coming?
Yeah. We've had like I say, it's a
Yeah.
melting pot.
Yeah.
You've seen it.
Yeah.
That's why you think it's cool.
Yeah. My boys just love coming here because they know that I see a police car and a fire truck normally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they like seeing the concrete trucks that drive down the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love it. Yeah. One other thing I did want to talk about too was the book. So, how did that come about?
How it really happened is, how do you deal with 500 people in a day
Yeah.
and remember their name?
Yep.
You know, and like there's certain people like Dwayne Sweeney. Wow, he's been in the Waikato team. He's blah 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 blah. You Sweeney, you're easy. LB and Damien McKenzie and Ross Taylor and all those guys. That's easy. But there's so many people and they look alike and that's how it really happened. Was if you can get them in the book, and they put their name in the book.
Yep.
Even if you can't remember their name, as they tick off in the book, you can have a look and you can say, instead of saying bro, mate, pal, you can say their name because they've written it in the book. And that whole thing of doing fast coffee became a thing. You get your card out and you swipe it, and just bypass all that shit and just do it that way.
Yeah.
And back to that, what you talked about earlier, people feeling like they own the place, like they're a part of the place, you know, like loyalty.
Yeah.
And there, so that's what the book was about.
Yeah.
Works really good. It doesn't bear scrutiny in terms of, you know, like being FPOS spreadsheet wise, but it works, and it works well. You never cheated it, have you, Dwayne?
Me? No, I haven't actually.
Huh?
No,
You don't even
I
feel,
don't think I have.
you don't,
Don't quote me.
you don't even feel guilty and tick two off just
Nah.
because maybe you missed one day?
I'll just
no,
tick Ross
no.
Taylor's boxes.
You need to put a camera there, you might catch me. No, but that, like,
It's unique, eh?
yeah, because from a business point of view, I couldn't imagine that many places would run the risk of people actually ripping it off. But it's like,
I want to say that 1 out of every 1,000 people takes the piss with us.
yeah,
You know, like it's so rare.
yeah.
And
But it's because of what you create, isn't it?
yeah, well, it comes down to that guy. You know, if you've been dealing with him for 20 years, and his kids come in, and his kids come in, and he brings all his friends in, how can you buy that?
Yeah,
Loyalty, customer loyalty, and the people coming in here and coming to their coffee shop. It's not, you know, I mean, it really is our coffee shop, but people think it's theirs.
what's the pricing system on the book?
So
So
at the moment we're running 7 little white
Yep.
coffees
Yeah, for $20, eh?
for $20.
Yep.
Yeah, 7 coffees. So you're ending up buying your coffee, it's just under $3.
Yeah,
But you have to pay for it up front.
yeah.
So
So if you drink 3,
as
you
you
don't
said
come
with
back.
as you said in the first one, you say drive carefully, bro.
Yeah.
Drive carefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a kind of unique thing, and no one else really does it. And I mean, it's people out there extending credit to people, but in this case, our customers extend us credit,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And back to loyalty, back to the fact that they know they're coming back tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're so confident.
Yeah. Well, that is.
I've got to come back tomorrow.
Well, that's what amazes me. If you do come in here, have a look in the book. Make sure you put your $20 and put your name in there. But as you do, flick through the pages, because some people literally fill like a page and a half. Like
Yeah.
they're such loyal customers, aren't they?
Did you see Elvis in there?
No, I didn't
He's
see
in there,
it. No, is he? Yeah.
He's still around.
Yeah, I thought he was.
We got to go to Gizzy, so
Yeah. No, thank you
Good
very
chatting.
much. Yep.
carry on.
Yep. Good to meet you,
Yeah, you too, bro.
JC.
See you around.
Yeah, definitely.
See you when we get back from the provinces.
Yep.
Cheer.
Yep. Sweet.
Take care. See yous.
I'll try not to say anything too racy in the
Yeah, no. You run out of beer, you'll be fine.
The liquor store's
Yeah,
next
I was going to
door.
say there's a bottle next door.
Yeah.
There is.
And they sell it too.
Yeah. See you, boys.
See you.
JC.
Legends.
Yeah, oh, that was good. That was good.
Yeah, that was perfect timing, JC coming
Yeah.
out.
They're both so modest. So it's funny.
Yeah. Well, we can talk a little bit more about them now, from I guess your point of view on, because like we've spoken before, and sometimes it is quite hard to say certain things about somebody when they're there, and that's the beauty of like what I've found with podcasting and a lot of I guess some of the guests I've had on, especially the two girls, so Teresa and Chelsea that came on, they had someone that was really influential in their career, and they talked about a year of 2014 and how important that was for them. But there was one person that, like Ruben Samuels, their coach, that fought really hard for them and created this amazing environment for them to flourish. And they, like, I see it when they're around them, there's a lot of respect for him, but then you see, but it's sometimes hard to, you know, you think you can get that across, but sometimes you can't. But I've kind of found with the podcast they could really speak freely, because, and then it's a good platform to be able to, you know, Tony might listen. He probably won't, but
yeah, I think I'm the podcast listener out of the bunch of us.
Yeah.
But no, they and both of them, it's like I figured. I mean, it all started quite small, of course.
Yeah.
But that's always been quite good in that, you know, there was Tony and JC obviously had a business relationship, and they've got another business partner, a man called Bryce Rhodes, who's he's an American guy, but he's got citizenship in New Zealand now. And
so is the four of you as directors?
Yeah. And he's been wildly successful in his own right over in America, working in the energy industry and things like that. But he's a surfer, kiter guy who came over, and he's involved with Tony and JC in their other business and Raglan. But they're all like, they've done very well for themselves, and they're all kind of, again, like super X Factor and wildly successful in their own right. So I thought, well, as a broken young man like I was when I signed up, I just figure all I have to do is sit here and shut up. And I do, you know, my skill is working, and kind of, you know, I do a lot of, like, you know, if there's a bunch of school kids or something, then I talk to them, and I'm more like working on the machine and doing the roasting, and I'm like kind of one of the good cops, and you know, working with people in the trenches more than, like, you know, I couldn't do what either one of those two does. Yeah. And so, like I was saying, that's quite valuable that we all have our own skills.
But that's why it works, eh?
But then you just learn. You learn because, you know, you sit with Tony in his office and you're learning about mortgage interest rates and property stuff, and, you know, how to buy things. And with JC, you're learning about branding and back end and structure. And I'm, you know, like, not that good with numbers and not very structured. And so, by osmosis or whatever, you kind of start to learn things, and you kind of start saying, oh, like, wow, that property's, you know, like, you just learn things. And like I say, with Tony, it's like you learn how to change the oil filter in your car, or, you know, it's a wild amount of stuff, and out of all of them, and same as Bryce, and you start to, you just start to, and in this day and age, you know, we pick our male role models from different places, because I mean, my old man's a wicked dude, I mean, but he's been in France for a long time now, and so you kind of get these other, you know, get these other things. And so, you know, my older brother Peter that we talked about, you know, he's the one that taught me how to ride a bike, and then mum's husband, second husband, sort of taught me how to drive. And so that kind of, luckily, you know, once your father figure is like, well, you're lucky if your parents are together and they're all rosy. But then
it's not a very common thing now.
These days it's not very common, and so again, like, I love my old man, and he's amazing in these other ways, and you learn other things off him. But then it becomes, once you knock a father figure off the pedestal, then you become sort of, you have the ability to kind of like cherry pick, like, oh, you know, Dwayne trains really hard, and this guy does this, and this guy does this, and you start, you know, you I think you end up like more balanced, and so the learning that you get out of them, it's just another one of the many things that the company provides, you know. And
meetings must be pretty cool. Like, you know, like when you're sitting in there with because everyone has their own area and the diversity of it. Like, I know sitting in team meetings, I find that interesting and cool. Cause I get intrigued. Like, I know heaps of players don't. Like, I get intrigued with what the forwards do. I want to know what the scrum's trying to do, the line out, where other backs could not give two shits. Like, but for me, I'm just wired that way. Like,
well, you're not going to get the ball unless those guys do
their job, and I understand that's an important role.
And so the same, much the same as that, certain things aren't going to happen unless people
you aren't
follow
get
through,
the beans to roast
follow through with their roles. And the structure side of things and the back end side of things that JC does, well, it doesn't necessarily make the coffee taste better, but in the long term there won't be any coffee without that.
Yeah. Oh, Floss has just walked in. G'day, mate.
Sorry, he's recording.
Yeah. You can come and sit in if you want.
Sorry.
No, you're alright.
No, Clay told me to.
Yeah.
He said pop up, but I thought you said finish.
No, you're alright. Yeah. So Ross Felipe's just walked in. It's not live, so you're alright.
Oh, I was you cut it out, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I'll leave it in though. Yeah, but like we were saying, like that must be an awesome. Yeah, like I really find I love diversity and learning from different people, and the massive reason for why I did this podcast, because I find that everybody has an interesting story, and I kind of feel that like I want to do the podcast because I want to be able to shine light on that. Like I want people to listen because they want to listen to interesting things, not because of who it is.
Yeah.
Because sometimes like I understand that certain people have certain pull and I guess a profile that's going to attract the listener, but I want them to stay because they find what they heard interesting, and then listen to someone. Why would he talk to them? And then listen and be like, oh man, that's really interesting.
Yeah, you get
because
value
everybody
out of
is
different things.
Yeah, everyone is interesting and everyone has a story, and like I feel it's important to let people share that if they're willing to.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, your story's interesting, isn't it? Like from a dude that was stuck in bed for what 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, and I mean
been awake for an hour a day.
Yeah. I look back on that, and funnily, either because of the illness or because of they start ramping up on some pretty heavy drugs, so I don't actually I don't remember wild amounts of specific details from any of that time through to recently.
Yeah.
So that's a bit unusual. I know I'm pretty much probably having a good time.
Almost like born again, like.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's like having amnesia or something.
Yeah.
But these days, actually, it's like I was saying, I'm not particularly guided by the finances of it all, and that's certainly there.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be lying if I didn't say.
Yeah.
And I still live at mum's, and we plough a lot of money back into the business and whatnot. But we'll all be okay.
Yeah.
We're fine. We've got.
Well, you're own landlord on 12 different sites.
I've got different problems. So to sit here and plead hardship or something, it's like I'm okay, and I feel pretty lucky to be where we are. We're in New Zealand.
Yeah.
We've just gone down to level 1.
Yeah.
I've got money in my pocket and food in my fridge and a house where I can go to, and we're all secure. No one's shooting at us. So we're way in the top 2% of the world. So if you're successful in the top 2% of the world, well, it's pretty hard to complain about feeling sick.
Yeah.
And also, like, go and walk through the child's oncology ward at a hospital. You just you feel like a bitch. It's like, I'm in pain and I vomit occasionally, and I have this raft of symptoms, but I'm like, I'm okay compared to some people. I still feel good. And that I mean, when you're stuck inside your body, you really think about. You think about things, and I've got good, strong internal resources, and so these days there's not that much that really phases me. And the ability to get out and have a mission and have something to do. If I didn't have anything to do, like hanging out on the sickness benefit or something, I'm glad, some people really need that, but I'd rather be doing stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true.
There's always something, and now I've, like, as much as Tony's helped sort of raise me up, it's now I'm more than twice as old as some of our employees, and I find myself having these sort of similar conversations with young people, like, oh dude, like trying to keep young people off drugs, alcohol, screens. There's a wild raft of things, and I'm actually a little afraid for the next generation or two, because things have changed. When I grew up in the 80s, we were eeling and making huts in a potiki and doing things, and nowadays it's like everything becomes quite indoors and on screens and things like that. So we've got a chance to work these kids and teach them some other things and
around their skill set.
So now it's funny, like I never thought, but I've found myself lately going, they're talking about the kids of today and stuff, and then you catch yourself and you're like, oh god, I'm getting older.
No, well, that is like that's an interesting topic, eh? Like, well, now that Ross is in the room, like we've spoken about it with our job when we're working in community rugby. Like, kids are a product of their environment. Like humans are, we're creatures of habit, and I do struggle a lot with a lot of the things that go on, especially in sport, the sport sort of framework. Like, I understand that sport needs to be fun, but the way we make it fun is not by just letting kids do whatever they want. Like, there still has to be structure and boundaries, and teach them, I guess, like lessons, and because for me, that's what I learned from rugby. I learned how to be respectful. I learned how to be disciplined in terms of turning up on time for my team. And those are two main things, and they're awesome life habits that I learned from sport as a kid. So it's like, it can't be all about just, like, fun isn't being able to just do whatever you want to do.
No. I 100% need boundaries.
Yeah. Well, I do too.
I'd go mental if I wouldn't have boundaries. I would go insane.
Yeah.
And so, that's one of the things about the business. Like I was saying, I'm not particularly guided by the financial side. It'd be great if that works out. But yeah, another one of the social capital aspects of it is taking. I mean, there's a mix of young men and young women. I'd have to say primarily the young women have less of those impulse issues than say some of the young men do, but it's like a really good opportunity to try and, you can't stop them doing anything, but then when they do mess up, you can be like, hey, like, you did this, and it gives you a chance to kind of reason with them. And some of them are like, I'm sure that we'll end up, like how I was saying the other day, Tony kind of has all these kids that he met, at the skate pit and whatnot, and they've made good, and he kind of, it's funny, these little injections can kind of mean quite a lot.
Yeah, like a little impact at the right time can change someone's life forever. Like JC, he swept the floors at Tony's, like,
and he's the big dog.
He's the big dog, like, and he said it like he's Tony's boss now.
Those two are like,
that's pretty cool. Like, and that is just timing, like, he convinced him to come sweep floors at his shop, and then he becomes the CEO of Volcom, New Zealand and Australia, and they got to hang out with God knows who, like the
stories are insane. You get I mean, JC's, just get Andrew John stopping by because he likes surfing, and he's good mates with, he knows a lot of the Manly guys, and occasionally there's just like, what do you mean fucking that guy's staying at your house? And it's like, oh no, it's AJ. It's like, call him Andrew Johns, man. Like, let us fan out a little.
No, it's like, and it is like, I think about my career in terms of like how it's sort of mapped out, and when you look at it, it is all timing, and it's I suppose for me, like from a rugby point of view, it's like the right coach at the right time seeing something that he liked, and then you get an opportunity, and then it's what you do with that opportunity. It's not it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make it, but if you're ready to take the opportunity and you put yourself in best, I guess the best position to be able to take it, and you're willing to work at it and focus.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily, well, luck is sometimes just it's just the first spark.
Yeah.
But never did luck ever bring anyone right through to the end. It's like, you got to work. And that's what you learn off Tony as well, because he's in here sort of potentially 7 days a week. And I do what I can, but it's like nothing happens. Luck just gives you the start. But it's work that actually brings it home in the end, and that's a pretty good. None of us are fucking around at Raglan Roast. You go to work.
You're working. Because one thing I did want to talk about too was like that financial side, and I've seen, just sort of through starting this podcast and starting my own sort of business and looking at different things, and I guess researching it for like use of it. Well, no, it's research. You see it a lot of models. They talk a lot about putting back into the business. So it's not just necessarily taking, so you get to a point where you're making a profit and you're so that profit is investing it back in the bottom to make it grow. So building capital.
Yeah.
Capital, is that the right word?
And
Which is something you do well here at Raglan Roast.
Occasionally I would see people with cafes that seem to be less busy and they're sort of driving around in Audis and sort of, you know, wearing fancy clothes and wearing, you know, good shit, and I would sort of be like, Tony, are we like dicks? Like, how can these guys do this stuff? And he would sort of be like, well, they don't own any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they're leasing a building, everything's leased, and so that was sort of like, it's like, I could probably go and tick up a Rolex somewhere, but it doesn't mean that it's mine.
Yeah. And
ultimately, if you own a place like Brown Lightning Brothers is huge, and some of the properties is like, man, it's extraordinary. Occasionally the phone calls that you get are, and I mean, if it all goes wrong, well, we also stand to lose our shirts, but if it seems that the way that we've been doing it by not buying Audis, and you know, we did buy some vans a couple of years ago, but it was like sensible Toyota vans. And so, I was even surprised that Tony did that.
Yeah.
You know? But it's like by keeping it tight, especially in this COVID era, we're far from losing our shirt. You know, and there's hospo businesses falling over left, right, and centre, and we managed to keep 100 people with the help of Jacinda and the government and everything else, and working our website and all of that stuff. It's like no, we've survived and flourished a little bit, which is kind of good, but that's because of the kind of the Spartan way that we run things. And if you've got $1 million fit out and you're selling $4 coffees, it's like I wouldn't want to, and you weren't roasting your own coffee. It's just something about the model that's just kind of worked. No, definitely. So with that with the COVID era and lockdown, did you see a massive boom in your online sales? It was ridiculous. It took us, when she first, I forget how it kind of happened, because it was like I was saying, I have the old brain gets a bit fuzzy.
Well, we had 2 days, I think, from when she said
said we're off to the races, and then a couple of days later that was it, and that
lockdown.
From that second, it was just like there was multiple orders a second. And
did the website handle it?
The website stuck, but it was just like thousands and thousands and thousands of orders, and at first we were like the toilet paper of the food and beverage world. So people weren't like, I usually get like a couple of 100 grams a week. It's like people were ordering 6 kilos, and like literally. And so you'd be like, there's 1,000 orders, and you think, 1,000 kilos,
But it's like
we'll get on top
6.
of that, but it might be 6,000 kilos, and that would be that day.
Yeah.
Not that we were doing that kind of amount just to keep the maths easy, but people were not being reasonable. I'm here to say we're always open, so you don't need to go crazy. But and the same thing happened again when Auckland got locked down, whenever it was, 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. Auckland people just blew up. It went crazy again, and it was basically 4 of us, me and Tony, and a couple of our young roasters, Max Power and Tama. And
was Max the one with the long hair?
He's a good young man.
Rooster,
and Tama's a young fella from Raglan, and he roasts in Teuku, so we're sort of, and so Tony and Max were in Te Rapa, and because I'm immune compromised, I was kind of not really keen to come into Hamilton, because there was actually some COVID here. As much as we were being careful, and I was being really careful in Teuku, but we just kind of kept to our bubbles, and we were following all the rules, and we were tagging in and tagging out, but it was like we were going hammer and tongs, like all the cafes were open, and it was literally just for the internet. But it was good because it kept us alive, because even things like wage subsidies, wages is a major part of your outgoings as a business, but isn't everything. It's like what happened was the councils weren't wildly
supportive.
Well,
I remember getting a letter saying about my rates, and just saying that I thought, sweet, because everywhere else was being lenient on things and payments and this and that, and I got a letter from like the council basically saying, sort your shit out, pay your rates, like effectively, like in nicer words. They kind of worded it around about, but just saying you have to pay your rates. And so
they weren't helpful, and they'll tend to get quite gnarly, and so when you think, it's just this place, X amount a month, which is a significant amount. But then you've got all these other properties around New Zealand, and
12
so
of them, don't you?
and so
Yeah.
something like that. And so
Yeah.
when you add them all up, it's like,
Yeah.
oh shit, we actually have to make some money.
Yeah.
Power, fridges, like stuff, stock, and then you had to pay for the month leading, because you do everything the
everything's
month
a month
after.
in advance, eh? Is
And
that
so then
how
you have
work
this
it?
huge amount of shit that you've bought, and then you've got to pay for it in a month where you've got basically nothing coming in
Yeah.
compared to what you're used to. It was stressful.
Because you're to give some context, like your online sales, what's a sort of average day of a kilo wise that goes out? Now that we're not in lockdown.
Mondays is always big. Could be several bins of coffee, like 100 plus.
Yep.
Like orders.
And what was happening? And then it was
That was
thousands?
thousands of orders.
Day.
That was just, and all through the night.
Yeah.
And people would wake up in the morning, and it was like you'd see people late at night, like ordering
Coffee.
And it was like, well, if you order 6 kilos of coffee,
It's going to go bad before
it's
you
going to be
drink
pretty
it.
shitty. And so
Yeah.
then we started limiting people to buying 500 grams,
Yep.
which enraged them.
Oh yeah.
People got really, really touchy, and it's like,
Yeah.
hey, this is so that everybody can have some.
Yeah.
Because it seemed when we first got locked down, there was 2 days
Yeah.
where we thought, oh, we'll just do it, and all the police come in here, so we were like, oh, we'll just
Yeah.
we'll try and fit you guys in somehow, essentials. It was the essential service. If you could somehow say, oh, I'm essential,
Yeah.
then you felt like you could get away with it
Yeah.
if you were being careful. But then there was 2 days where she went, nah, no one, and all the coffee roasters basically had to close up, and I remember tidying up at Teuku and grabbing all the perishable shit.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, it turned out that coffee was an essential service. And so then we could, we worked it, and we could get into Raglan supermarket and the supermarket in Gisborne, and that meant we were a food supplier, and that meant
Sweet, you could roast.
we were off, and we had an established website, which was
Which helped.
and that's where it's all going to go. I think there's going to be a lot less shop frontage and a lot more kind of web-based shopping. Of
Well, we're
things
getting lazier, eh?
Moving forward,
as humans.
it's pretty convenient.
Yeah.
I'm no better. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's kind of cooler if you ring Countdown and they kind of come to you instead. But I don't know. In saying that though, I'm an aisle peruser, and I like to make my choices walking around. But it's sort of funny.
Yeah, but I think because we're of that, I guess that age, that era almost, where we grew up like that. So it's a harder. Well, it's kind of ingrained. Like I was talking about it the other day with my mum about the recycled bags. Like she really struggles with that because she's been doing groceries for 40 years or longer, and always used to getting plastic bags. So it's harder to remember. Yeah. So, but which makes so much sense. Where like our kids are going to grow up and it's just they won't even know what a plastic bag was. Like my boys are 4 and 6. Like they're gone from society pretty much now, so they won't know no difference. But it is hard to change habits sometimes. And there's certain people that,
and I mean I guess history will reflect. We used to burn witches, and then we figured out that wasn't a very good idea. So it's like, I guess plastic's going to be a thing. It's kind of evil, but it's kind of convenient as well. And I've got a lot of faith because the roast office in Teuku has a school right next door, which is a good country school, and they still have calf day and all that cool stuff we used to do. But you look at their composting, and they think recycling is like the greatest thing out. And so I've kind of got, provided we don't screw it up too bad. I think that they're into it enough that
it's going to be ingrained in them enough.
We might not blow the earth up. Just yet. Just yet.
Well, it's funny that because my wife works at Frankton School, which is based here in Hamilton, but they have their own chickens in that at school. And the kids get to take eggs home and things like that. It's like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's a city school. I would never have thought something like that would happen in a city school. I would think that would be something that would happen in
more of a country school. But even then, it's
becoming more of a...
It's becoming more rare.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. You can kind of almost sense it's kind of turning. It kind of went rare, and then maybe it's on the other way. It's starting to become more normal.
Yeah, no, I think the kids are... Man, if I had any kids, all I've got's a dog.
Yeah.
But I'd be training them to hunt, fish, grow vegetables, recycle, like prep them for the Great Leap backwards, because we don't know. It's kind of interesting. 2020's been kind of an interesting year in business and life, and it's like, holy moly, it's September already, and I was sort of thinking, it has been a bit unusual. And it's a year where you start to think about what you're actually up to, like what's important in life and business, and how do you want to do things, and it is kind of, it's an interesting time that we're in. Yeah. People are confused.
Yeah, very confused. I'm confused.
Yeah. But we happen to, and tying it back into the business, we're pretty reasonably priced, and we're pretty good, and we're pretty quick on the old orders and whatnot. And so, in a time where people are worried about money and things like that, it's nice to be able to give people what used to be a luxury. It's nice that people can kind of afford it. And
well, and the book system, how good's the book system?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of funny, because if you get in the book and you have 5 to 7 coffees a week on it, you basically get a free one inside your $20. But I added it up one day, because I was like, well, I guess that adds up a bit if you're kind of constant. And they give you like $1,500 to $2,000 a year. And then if you open up a place and you get 50 people in there, well, that's, $50, $40 to $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Based on their spend, which is like definitely going to pay your rent or your mortgage, or just by having that initial spark in the book, they get further buy-in by it being like a feed-jar box on the side of the road, and you're trusting them to tick it or to treat it accordingly. But before, and that always happens within. Tony will go to a place, open the door. Basically, the first thing he does is plumbs in and plugs in a coffee machine. He'll have some coffee, and then you start getting the same here. Yeah. As soon as they open the doors and they were building, and it's basically a building site, and there's shit everywhere, but you can go in and he'll give you coffee for the first little while, and so then give us a bit of money, he'll bring us a bottle of milk, or he'll barter and trade, and then get people coming in, and then he's like, I've got a sign for the wall, and then that's that initial. It starts right from second one. You settle on the property, and Tony's usually there, like kind of like waiting to get the key, to get in as soon as he can get in. Then 24 hours later, there's a coffee machine in there, and then it starts. And those initial people that come in, like, what the hell's going on here, and you make them a cup of coffee for free, and it's like, oh shit, like, it's really good, and they're still here. They're still coming into Te Rapa, and those initial fans are sometimes the most one-eyed, blindly loyal freaking people that are there forever, because they're there, and then they see how it's like they feel that they belong to the place, and I think that's one of the things that we do that's kind of cool, is that the customers think that it belongs to them, and that's like kind of a neat thing. I could go out on a limb and decorate it how I want, but maybe it wouldn't be very nice or comfortable.
It's pretty comfortable. Where's all the furniture come from?
Tony goes to McElwain's auctions, and somehow, again, he's a jammy bastard, and he likes Trade Me, and he likes a good auction. And so just McElwain's, and Mitch the electrician gave us that cool brown set with the wheels on, his old Nana's couch, and like that, and then people will come in and go, my Nan's got I've got this Nan's old couch and the thing, and then you just auctions, and people drop them off, basically. It's quite good.
It's pretty cool.
Free furniture's good.
It is. Floss, come sit up here for a second. Because we're talking about loyal customers and myself, and so this is Floss, Ross Filippo. G'day, Floss.
Hey, Sweens, how are you?
me and Floss are good mates. He's just been sitting in the corner for the last 10 minutes or so, having his coffee. Always a mocha, always in a takeaway cup. Hey, Floss.
I should probably look after the environment a bit better, but I lived in Japan for a year and I realised we're pissing into a gale force wind in terms of plastic and stuff that's being put out. And yeah, it was mind blowing, to be honest.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. So I want to talk to you because we talked a lot earlier around the profile of people that come through here, and we talked a lot, like Anton, Leonard Brown and Big Jim, Damien McKenzie got mentioned a lot, Ross Taylor, like they don't hear all the time, and you're someone that sits in that category, being a past All Blacks.
I have to say, we do get occasionally, I quell my fanboy.
Yeah.
Because I do stick to my ethos of not bothering people.
Yeah.
But no, it's so cool when you see Ross and guys that you've rated as heroes kind of coming in. It's kind of cool for the place, you know.
Yeah. But like, because I sort of spoke from like my point of view, it's like you sort of come here and you don't get pestered. Like I'm not like like I don't put myself in their category, but people do recognise me in the region because I've been here for so long, hanging around. They do, and they come up and say g'day and whatnot. But I find that here, for some reason, it just seems to be always done in a respectful way, and then not invade. They don't invade your like personal space. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. I guess from my end, because I never grew up here, I think sometimes people like look at me and have a second take, like, he looks familiar.
Oh,
do I know him? Versus...
Are you the doorman from Calibre?
Yeah. I've had the TK from Shortland Street before, that broke me.
Oh, like,
I was like, sorry? So, I know, like, I've noticed sometimes I always get, like, people give me that weird stare, like, do I know him? Or, it's like a familiar face, but because I never really kind of came through here, and then came here at the end of my career, I still kind of...
You managed to slide under the radar a little bit.
Need to slide along.
It's like, oh shit, he's wearing Chiefs gear though.
Yeah,
like,
not
who's that guy?
not that I ever considered myself famous anyway.
Yeah. Well, you never, like, New Zealand nature, you never do you?
No.
Doesn't matter what you do, you'll never... Well, 99% of Kiwis don't think that way.
No.
But here,
Locks get no love either.
No, they
like,
don't.
All hard work and no glory.
People probably stare at my ear more than anything, and I'm just like, oh,
Mum, what's wrong?
Yeah, what's wrong with his ear? But going back to what you're saying, the environment here is really cool, and it was really interesting just hearing you explain where it starts and how it starts right at the beginning from pretty much when Tony gets the keys.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the first time I've heard that, so I was like, far out. That's a really cool. Just a cool way to kind of get momentum rolling. Chucks out a few coffees.
I highly doubt that there's fully a plan in his mind or anything written down or anything when you start. The deal is like, there's always like, running around and like, oh God, you get it over the line. Yeah. And then you get the keys and then you kind of go, all right, what have we got?
Yeah.
Because I remember years ago, and I had no idea, I only found this out not too long ago, that like Tony, because Tony was the Volcom.
Yeah.
But because I was in Wellington, through Ricky Flutie and Shannon Paku and those boys, I met, I can't remember who it was.
Stocky?
Stocky, yes. We played
Ricky Flutie's cousin.
We played up at Bay of Plenty, we played at the Mount, and I met Stocky for the first time, and he just, literally, never met the dude.
He is like one of the loveliest dudes.
He rolled in to our hotel, and we were staying right on the Mount. Rolled into our hotel with this huge box, and it was just full of Volcom kit, and he just gave it out to just a few of us boys. But then Stocky kept talking about Tony. Tony's like, he's trying to obviously get as many rugby boys into the Volcom gear as possible. This is years ago. He had Volcom socks, Volcom t-shirts.
When Stocky was there, that was when he would have this ginormous Mercedes van.
Yeah.
He did.
Well, Tony only just retired that.
Oh yeah.
It still goes, but it's
But I remember then, and then it wasn't too long ago that I found out that Tony, it was the same Tony, and I was just like, far out.
Holy shit.
And then because I saw all the Volcom stuff on the wall, and so I started talking to Tony, and he said he'd spent a bit of time down at Christchurch as well. And I didn't realise our paths had crossed so numerous times.
Yeah.
And then obviously you collide again here. You end up in Hamilton of all places, and yeah, you just come in here and it's a really, really cool vibe. And you know, I think Sweden, you were the first one to bring me here. You said we'll try this place down to Upper Street. You'd come here a few times before, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then we came in, and I think within the first week, Kim and maybe Jacob knew my name, and would address me by my name. And
well, and from a hospo, like I was saying the other day, is like maybe you've had the worst day in the world, Ross, and then you kind of come in.
Yeah.
God knows for a multiple of reasons why you might have a shitty day, and then you might continue to have a shitty day after you leave. But if you come in and they go, "Hey Ross, and how are you going?" and you want your little knocker again, and you know, and you just for that 5 minutes of time that you're there, you're like treated really well.
Well,
people know you, and not because like, "Oh my God, it's Ross Filippo," but it's like, "Oh hey Ross,
yeah,
what can I do for you today?" It's just a little bit of service, and
and then
it goes a long way, you know.
Like Kim, for example, found out my nickname. She's never called me Ross since. She only ever calls me Floss. You know, and so it's like real powerful. Yeah,
and you feel like you belong.
Yeah, and it just hooks you in.
Am I going to go to this other place where it just?
But it's different to being like at a restaurant, for example, where you can tell that the waiter's trying to schmooze you and take your order, and you know they're obviously front of house, so they've got to put on this real show around their service. Here it's just like, "G'day Floss, you having your usual," and it's not invasive. You know, so you like. It just feels like you're talking to one of your mates. And it's real casual. And then the whole vibe of the setup of the building, it's not overdone. It's not $100 grand fit out like you were saying before or anything like that. You just roll up.
I just think that
I love it.
I think that alienates people.
Yeah.
Because I'm filthy and I've always got dirty clothes on, and you know the coffee roasting world's a dirty one. But it's like if you feel. Like I was saying before, the flash people can still sit on the leather couches and it's clean enough for them, and they're kind of like, "Whoo, you know, we're slumming it." And let's go and hang out with the dirty people. But then the dirty people can also fit in the same way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like a tradie could bowl in with his boots on.
It's
It
cool.
doesn't matter.
It's cool for everybody. And that really helps.
There's a hard balance to get.
It's not intimidating.
Yeah. And
anyone can roll up.
It's repeat, and it's about repeat custom as well, which is like if you're comfortable in there, maybe you'll go to a flash restaurant even though I'll go out to a flash restaurant every now and again, but I probably like feel more comfortable eating at a rugged kebab shop or something like that. So you're going for repeat custom, which is also to do with the pricing of things. We could easily charge $5.50 for a flat white, but then you guys might come once a week, but because it's like, you know, $4 or it's that extra $1.50 cheaper, it turns into something that isn't just this luxury treat that maybe you'd get once a week, and it becomes something that you might do every day.
Well, because what I like noticed with the service, like quite, you walked in and they're like, "Oh, usual," like even at times, like especially with the twins. You walk in and the coffee's waiting by the time you get to the front of the line. Like they're ahead of the game because
and Clay's going
see
nuts
you coming
on
doing
that.
Boom, boom.
Well, and if you see Ross Filippo pull up, or you see that Mulu Ute pull up, it's like you're only delaying the inevitable, and unless you're up to something, like
start
get on with it. Like, there's no reason why he can't have his mocha waiting on the table.
But we're like we're common, I guess, like customers, but we wouldn't be super common.
But
like, there'd be
could
people that would be more
you
common.
could be Johnny Nobody in a blue Subaru, and you know that when that blue Subaru comes in, there's a trim cappuccino with cinnamon or whatever it might be, and it's just like that makes your job easier. It's like just get on with it.
No, it's pretty.
Coffee takes about 46 seconds to a minute to make, and it's part of that service. Like, "Hey Floss, how you going?" Like, boom, here it is. Like that, you don't have to wait.
But more often than not, I'm usually surprised by the time I get to the front of the counter and the coffee's already there.
Yeah.
And so...
I always look around and I'm like... And they're like, "Oh, that's yours." And I'm like, oh okay.
Yeah, sometimes you'll stand there waiting because I never turn up with the expectation of they're just going to make it.
But that's cool to be... It's always nice to be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
So it's all those things that go into, like, the whole experience here. But also you got, like, a unreal product as well. So the product and
it's kind of low. It's like it'd be like, say, both of you would know, like Japan is what I'd call high context. It's very like regimented and you take your shoes off, and we're very low context here. And that's probably our business ethos, and a lot like Good George and these other brands that we kind of meld really well with, is that I can bang on to you about the science of it, but it doesn't really help. It's like it's not. Or if I was really tidy and wore a nice white suit with a tie and everything, it wouldn't be a true reflection of who we are. It's like we're t-shirt wearing sort of surf bums. Yeah. And
with real hard hands.
Yeah.
As Quinn found out.
Yeah, Jesus.
When we come in, I'll tell a bit of a story. So we come in and did the barista course that we did, and Bobo was roasting the coffee and taking us through that process, and he pulled the beans out after they'd been roasted, and he was just tossing his hands through them, like mixing them up. And then Bobo carried on talking about something else, and then Quinn walked over and put his hand in it to toss them, and it fucking burnt his hand. It was
probably like 180 degrees.
Yeah. And then Quinn was like, and I was like, "Oh, is that hot?" And he's like, "Bro, it's like hot as." And he was trying not to like let Bobo know that he hurt his hand. Bobo was like, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't touch that. It's quite hot."
He was good.
Just, like,
he was one of the more competitive ones.
Yeah.
There was another tall fella.
Was it Laggy?
One of the locks.
Yeah, it'd be Laggy.
Yeah, he was kind of into it, and we saw his like bio at the start of a rugby game, and he listed like being a barista as like one of his interests, and I was like, yeah.
He's a hard case.
And Fletch was pretty good.
Yeah, he was very interested, Fletch. Like I always find Fletch a bit of a Fletcher Smith, like he's a bit of a hard one to read sometimes of what he's into and what he's interested in. He's quite sort of closed sort of person, but he asked so many questions and he was so engaged, But
it's really nice to see those guys a year on, because at that stage I was like, well, who's got a Super Rugby contract? Because it was the NPC team, and he was one. Yeah, and I think the tall fellow was one, and there might have been.
Yeah, that might have been it. I don't think Quinn had signed.
And so it's really cool 12 months on to see, he's tearing it up. Yeah. Like, the game against North Harbour, he was very tricky, and so it's kind of nice to see 12 months on. It's kind of
you have that relationship
from Boys High is kind of
as well, from that, plus they come in here and
he's clearly stepping up, and it's cool to see. Yeah. As I said, I'm a one-eyed Waikato dude.
They got a good defence coach and forwards coach now, by the way.
It was a hard year to be a Chiefs.
Not the more defence.
Yeah. It was a hard year to be a Chiefs fan this year. I felt for them.
Yeah. It was a bit difficult. Is there anything else we want to... anything else you want to sort of share on the environment? Because I like that we spoke about like Kim with her like remembering names and things like that, and like you said, when you go to a restaurant or whatever in the front of houses, it seems forced. Where here, do you find it's the caliber of the people is why that works? Like, because they are really genuine.
Yeah, like
because you can't force people to be like that, like.
No, you can like try and show interest, and you either are or you aren't. And
because the twins are very quiet, but they're very interested.
Yeah,
where Kim's louder and talks, she's more
you kind of
confident.
You pick your personalities. Like the young kids are gonna either like not know who Ross is, say, or if you're young, or but Kim's lovely. Like she's. It just comes down to the personality of some of the people. Like, are you a hospo guy who's just going to talk to anyone? Yep. And the twins are kind of like cool. Yep. And we've had them since they were sort of 13 or 14 or something like that. Like they're one of those ones that you see. You get to guide them in certain things, and
Tony taught them how to drive.
Tony will teach them how to drive.
Did he? He's taught 5 of them how to drive.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He houses them and everything. Hey?
It's sort of funny and then you.
But that's probably a reflection of the environment. It seems very family-like.
Well, and you don't get them moving on after 3 months and things like, because to be realistic, there's a certain you're never going to get paid $50 an hour to make coffee. So there's a limit to how far you can go, kind of up the ladder. But like you hang on to them for as long as you can. and then some of them will kind of make a step up and maybe move into management, or you know, there's other guys that then, like myself, you hang around the Don long enough, and then you get like, oh, do you want to like buy into this other property? And so you know, now we've got this really nice sort of accommodation lodge out in Whale Bay called Koru Lodge, like 4 luxury apartments and another thing, and you know, you get given an opportunity to be in these other deals, and so that's where you go from like being a broken young man making coffee through to like, Jesus, now I own some land, and it's all via my association to this company. And
well, it's paid back for your loyalty,
serves you
it?
better if you help other people.
Yeah.
And like Tony said, he could have it all. He could have done all of this all for himself, but it doesn't really.
He likes growing other people. Eh?
Yeah, it's not. It's not fun for him, you know. Whatever. And now I'm a zillionaire. Who cares? It's like all my mates are fucked and broke, and it's kind of. But that happens with all the kids and other people. It's like you hang around long enough, and it is kind of a little bit of a test, I guess. Like I hung around down the lane, working for free, while I was sick for quite a long time, and now I'm in this position. Yeah.
Now you're a director of the company.
Yeah. I'm kind of driving my own locomotive.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of all via my like meeting someone like Tony and us starting this brand together, and that's the cool stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It's like money's kind of handy, but it's not what gets me up in the morning.
No.
Or mid-morning, as it would be.
What about anything else you want to share on the environment here?
Yeah.
Floss? Yeah.
Oh, there's always a line out the door, eh?
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
So it's in terms of like the place, you know, that speaks for itself in terms of what the public think of. Because sometimes I might be running late for work and I'm driving past and I'm about to swing in, and then you see it's like 15 deep out the line, you're like, oh! But you guys turn over the coffee so quickly too, so a 15 deep line means you're only going to wait for 4 or 5 minutes.
It's not too bad.
It's not too bad. You go to another cafe and it's 15 deep and you might be sitting there for half an hour, depending.
It's like, nothing takes half an hour.
You know, but sometimes, you know.
That is one of our, I mean, if you looked at us on some level, there's probably, you know, better like latte art and fancy pictures and...
Yeah, but it's going to get drunk.
Certain things. But I was always
you put
like,
a lid on it and you drink it.
You just want evidence that they've mixed your beverage, because essentially the barista's a bartender, and you just want to see some, you know, some white and some brown, and if it's a cool picture, like, fantastic. Yeah. But like, you're about to go what and put a lid on it and bosh it down and turn it into fluids. So it's like, it's best that it happens quickly. Yeah. And if it's reasonably priced, it's nice and fast, and it tastes good.
Yeah.
How good. It's a no-brainer, dude.
Yeah. It's pretty easy, yeah. Very easy. Sweet. Anything else you want to share with us, Bobo? Any final thoughts? Any exciting things coming up that you...
Firstly, I'll just apologise for butting in on you. Clay told me you guys had finished, eh? So he goes, I'll just roll up, and then I walk around the corner, I was like... No. Still talking.
It's been a real, like, honestly, this podcast has been a direct reflection of this place. Like, me and Tony sat down, and JC bowls in. He just joins in, shares his little bit, then they shoot off, and they've gone to Gizzy. You know, Floss bowls up, sits in the corner, then he jumps in, shares his little bit. Like, that's what this place is about. It's like a
dynamic situation.
Yeah, it's a perfect, like, reflection in terms of a podcast. Like, it's been a little bit all over the show, but it's got heaps of cool shit in it. Like, heaps of good content, you know? Just like Raglan Roast.
Yeah. What have we got coming up?
We got the espresso martini, which sounds
we've got
exciting.
I mean, I don't know whether that's... I don't think that's on what they already have it out as another product.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Like any relationships with any other company, especially someone like onto it, like the guys at Good George, is like they're true legends of the game, and so it's thank you for reaching down into the gutter and picking us up. But yeah, new cafes happening. We're out the back of the base, where we're just across the road on the corner, across the road from the new transport centre that's getting built. So that's another one that's gonna just I'm
That's
sure
close to home for me.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's going to be insane.
Yeah.
And we're just heading into summer.
Is that a
and-
new building or established?
Yeah,
building?
we're next door to a I forget the name. Tony's good at remembering stuff, but
Yeah.
we're going to basically build a big. There is a house on site there, so that
Yeah.
fits in with our. You
Yeah.
know, like someone who works there can probably live in the
Is
house.
this out by the
Yeah.
base?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
Tony,
trying-
Tony showed me that site.
It's just.
Oh, yeah?
It's
You've
just.
seen
I mean, and he talks about it and buys it, and you're like, you sign bits of paper, and
Yeah.
and then you actually stand there and go, holy shit! Like, there's like a daycare centre next door.
Yeah.
There's a transport. It's just like the perfect storm. We've got parking.
Yeah.
You're next door to a daycare centre and a bus stop and a train centre, and you're
Yeah.
there at the base, and there's going to be like some kind of walking overbridge. It's just like,
He knows
Well,
everything that's going on, eh?
And that's probably another cool thing. I can just rock into his office, ask him what's going on, and he shares something like that,
and you're just like,
and you
fuck.
just like,
He reckons he
how
doesn't have a
cool.
crystal ball, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I swear he's just got a. It's hard to. He doesn't take the praise very.
Yeah.
No, not badly. Like he doesn't get annoyed, but no.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's something like he
Yeah.
has a knack for picking the property that's just about. And we bought it just before all that kind of happened. Or maybe he gets little whispers in his ear about a transport centre being there.
Yeah.
But then suddenly you find yourself in this place, and it's just like exploding. And it'll be just like here. We haven't finished this place yet because you start it and. You let customers in the very first day you ever open the door. And it's like, holy shit, and then it gets really busy and it takes off. And now our problem is almost the growth is almost too rapid, which is great in terms of it's never something that the customer would probably notice, but it's more just like there's stuff outside and there's stuff that needs to be finished off, and it's just like it's really hard to do that because you're just like shoveling coffee into the machine like you're running a locomotive. Got no brakes, so no.
Well, you don't need brakes.
That's
No,
probably-
you don't. You don't.
That's
use
probably
your
the appealing part about it, though. It's
always
all-
changing.
It's always changing, and that's all part of like your experience when you come here. Like, yeah, some days you come out, there's bags of shit outside, and like there's stuff all over the place. You guys are moving things around, but business just keeps kind of going.
Yeah.
And that particular day, they've got a job on, and it's just kind of it's a constant changing face within inside the building,
and so
and it's evolving. So
and you don't get sick of stuff then too, because
No.
I think if you just set a place up and it was like locked and booed and tables in exactly the same place,
Yeah, yeah.
everything was the same, I think you kind of get bored, which is why people sometimes might change their local place.
I always like coming in and seeing if there's a new chair. So I'll
Yeah.
sort of look around the floor and
someone's
be like,
grandma will have passed away and we've all emptied out their garage, or like there's a boat, there's a rowing skiff up in the roof, and we've got another one to put up in the roof.
Tony's race bikes on the wall.
Yeah, and we've got like some other. I had plans because there's some kind of maritime museum down on the viaduct that's got all these different boats like kind of up in the ceiling, and so I'm kind of keen to fill the ceiling full of like. We've got a dodgy old duck punt from Topiri that I think is going to get hauled up there one of these days, and it's just kind of interesting. It's never finished. It's more like an artistic project than a business in that sense.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Awesome.
Alrighty.
Cheers for coming on, bro. Legend, bro.
No worries.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, boss.
sorry, random guy just rolled in. I'm just going to go and butt into my next podcast.
That's our personnel development officer. Ross
Yeah.
Filippo.
I just keep sending the boys here for their coffee spots. Make sure you give them some time in between training.
It's performance enhancing drugs.
It is.
Which is
It's caffeine.
sweet.